This is the Spoken Podcast. I'm your host, Lance Twidwell, here inside the Spoken Studios with my guys, Trevor Twidwell.
What's good?
And Eddie Ortiz.
Yo.
Episode 142 in full swing, full motion. We are so happy, excited, and thrilled to be here with you, whether you're live streaming, podcasting, or YouTubing. We want to thank you for making some time as we make some time to be in your life and you to be in ours. We want to thank you guys so much for being here. We got a jam-packed show for you. I hope you guys are strapped in, ready to go. No matter how you're watching or how you're listening, we do appreciate it, and we hope that you guys are ready because this is a big week, not just for our show, but for the Chiefs, because we know that this is always a big game no matter where the team's records sit. We always know the fans care. It's a Chiefs versus Raiders week. It is Raiders week here in Kansas City. It is Chiefs week in Las Vegas. I know they care just as much as we do, and man, we are so excited to have our guy from LV Sports Network, ESPN Las Vegas, your boy Q254 on Twitter. He's going to be joining us momentarily today. He's going to be giving us some insight from the Raiders side of things while we give you guys some insight on the Chiefs side of things. We got the Eddie Hour. We got the Monday Mailbag. We got our previews. We got all kinds of stuff for you guys today. We also got to hang out some L's in the world of sports because I feel that this week in particular there have been a ton to give out. I'm sure in the F1 world, I'm sure in the soccer world, Eddie's got a couple. But I know here in America, man, there's been some storylines, some headlines going on, and we are going to attack all of those throughout the duration of this show. But I want to start with a little bit of a recap from the Chiefs and Packers game last week. I know that a lot of you guys chimed in last week on a lot of our posts in regards to this game and the expectations that we had in particular at the Spoken Podcast with this matchup, because it was a game, and I feel that at this point of the season, the way that things have gone for the Chiefs, that every game is now a must-win. I don't like to be the guy that comes on here each and every week and says, oh, this is a must-win. This is a must-win, because in my opinion, no matter what your record indicates or shows, that should be your mentality as a team, is that you're going in there with the intention of winning and not losing. I know that there's times, even like last season, when the Chiefs at the end of the year kind of just, set their sails to the playoffs, and you could tell by resting starters and things of that nature. That is clearly not what's gone on here in Kansas City this time around. And so now the act of desperation is even more vital from a team like the Chiefs. And I'm gonna break this down, and I want to start it kind of like we did last week, where I just kind of give you guys a rundown, and I want to get Trevor and Eddie's thoughts on this as well, because Trevor and I we watched the majority of this game together. I think we did. I know you've been busy at night some of these weekends, but the overall takeaway that I think a lot of us had when it came to how the Chiefs won was how ugly it was, and it was an ugly game. I said on last week's show that if the Chiefs' defense was going to show us that they really have turned a corner and they really have changed their ways, they're going to make Jordan Love look like a rookie quarterback that's making his first start. And they did that. And I want to talk about the defense in just a second, but I actually want to start this one on the offensive side. Since 2018, there has been this expectation that the Chiefs should just go out there, walk on the field, and score over 30 a game, because that has been the reality over the last 3 seasons. But now we're seeing the teams on the opposing side play the Chiefs offense to a point where, okay, you might score points because you have that great of a quarterback, that great of a tight end, that great of a wide receiver, that great of an offensive line, and that great of a head coach. But we're going to make work for it now. You're not going to get these 3-4 play drives that you're scoring 60-yard touchdowns anymore, at least not on the clip that you have over the last 3 seasons. The Chiefs now have to be more methodical. They have to be, dare I say, more conservative, more Alex Smith-like. And that almost makes me want to throw up in my mouth, because you guys know how much I despise the Alex Smith era. But see, there is something to that about a balanced attack, and that's why we've talked about running the ball, being efficient with the run game. You don't have to become a ground-and-pound offense, but playing a ground-and-pound offense at early parts of the game really sets up the tempo for your offense to take those shots downfield. And we did see that in this game. We saw the Chiefs hit those intermediate routes. We saw them doing the dump-offs, the check-downs. Patrick Mahomes was only averaging around 3 yards an attempt in this game. So this is a very different Patrick Mahomes we saw in this game, but what I loved about it was the fact that he was not afraid to do those things in this time, and that was something we had talked about was, is Patrick Mahomes afraid to do the easy stuff? Because that is the easy stuff. As crazy as it sounds, Patrick Mahomes is less fearful of doing the things that are a lot more risky than doing the things that are a lot more methodical and easier and has a higher percentage of success rate, of a success rate. And so that's the dynamic that Patrick Mahomes has to deal with on a day in and day out as a quarterback and the style of quarterback he is. But I'm choosing to be optimistic today because, let's be honest, the Chiefs' offense was not good in this game. The Packers' defense is good, but they were missing Jair Alexander. They were losing the Zadarius Smith. They were missing some key guys. So the Chiefs should have scored some points. But today, I'm choosing optimism. And as crazy as that sounds, because I've been down on the Chiefs for the last several weeks, I'm going to explain why I'm choosing optimism. For one, I said before the Week 6 matchup against the Washington football team, if the Chiefs lose any of their next 3 games, which was Washington football team, the Tennessee Titans, or the New York Giants, that they were not going to make the playoffs. But would luck have it where the Packers lose their star, maybe arguably the best quarterback in football, in Aaron Rodgers, 1 week, because he has now been officially activated for the Seahawks game this week at Lambeau. The 1 week Aaron Rodgers misses is the game he was going to be facing Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs did, for the majority of it, capitalized and ended up beating the Packers because of it. I didn't foresee that happening, which is why I was picking the Chiefs initially to lose to the Packers, and then this downward spiral of missing the playoffs would occur. But the NFL season, in particular this year, has been so insane. There have been so many unpredictable things. You have the Bills losing to the Jacksonville Jaguars 9-6, or as Urban Meyer would probably like to say, 6-9. And then you have the Ravens getting shellacked on primetime television against the two at the point. I think at that point it was 2-6, 2-6 Miami Dolphins, who had 2 quarterbacks play. Neither one of them threw more than 158 yards, and neither threw a touchdown, yet won by 12 points. That's the kind of AFC we have going on right now. It's so insane that as it currently stands, if the season ended right now, the Chiefs would miss the playoffs, despite the fact only having 2 fewer wins than the 1-seed Titans. So naturally, I'm choosing optimism because despite the fact of how bad the Chiefs have started this season, they are 100% in the hunt to not only make the playoffs, but to get a top 2 seed. So I am choosing optimism. I'm also choosing optimism because as bad as Patrick Mahomes looked at times in this game and has looked at times over the last 3 or 4 weeks, guys, we can't sit here and pretend as if we don't have 50-plus games of great football from Patrick Mahomes before this slump that he's now currently in. So I have to believe that guy is eventually going to come back and come back quickly, even as quickly as this week, which we'll get to in a little bit. But I'm also choosing optimism because something that I think, and I've been saying for weeks now as to why Patrick Mahomes has been pressing, why he hasn't looked as impressive, and why he's been struggling and really putting a lot of pressure on himself. You can speculate whether it's personal reasons, off-the-field reasons, but there's also validity to the fact that he had no trust or faith in his defense, despite what he says to the media. He has shown that he has not been able to trust his defense because this season, up to about week 7, the defense was historically bad. So Patrick Mahomes was putting more pressure on himself. In this game against the Packers, Patrick Mahomes didn't have to be great for the Chiefs to win. And that's not something we say very often because in Patrick Mahomes' career losses, the Chiefs are giving up over 35 a game defensively. So that pressure now, we can make the case, has been a little bit alleviated for Patrick Mahomes to where he sees that I wasn't great on Sunday and we beat a playoff team, a team that was currently the 1 seed in the NFC. Maybe I can relax a little bit because I've told you guys on posts on the Spoken and on Twitter as well that I think the biggest thing that Patrick Mahomes is dealing with is just being a guy that's no longer relaxed or confident in his own abilities. I think once he relaxes and sets himself back into what he is and who he knows to be, he's going to be great again. And I think this game and the fact that Patrick Mahomes on the final drive, and I know people are trying to say this is too big of a deal. I'm not trying to make too big of a deal of it, but I immediately, as soon as it happened, when Patrick Mahomes rolled out and hit Tyreek Hill an absolute piss missile, a strike to end the game on 3rd down, which, by the way, Tyreek has the most 3rd down conversion catches in the NFL, I think 7, if I'm not mistaken, this season. Patrick Mahomes, as soon as it happened, I immediately went to The Rock. When The Rock would get in the middle of the stage or middle of the ring and go, "Finally, The Rock has come back." As soon as that happened, that's what I pictured is Patrick Mahomes grabbing the mic. Finally, Patrick Mahomes has come back to the National Football League. That's literally what I thought. That's what it looked like to me because Patrick Mahomes pumping his fists, ready to go. It looked like he was ready to play another 4 quarters of football, and I think he would have, honestly, if given the opportunity. But luckily, the Chiefs got out of there with an ugly, muddied-up win. And to me, I don't like moral victories. I don't like, well, that was a good loss. No. Bad losses are better than good losses. Bad wins are better than good losses because to me, good losses don't exist. But bad wins do. And that was a bad win. But this actually could be a blessing in disguise for the Chiefs, seeing that no longer it has to be, if Patrick Mahomes don't save us, we lose. And that's why I want to segue to the defense. I am still on the side that this defense is not good enough to win a Super Bowl. Having said that, I'm seeing the Chiefs capitalizing on defense against bad offenses. You keep bad teams and bad offenses bad. that's when you can build on things. And I'm not one of those guys that wants to believe in this whole, well, like 2019, they were at this time and then they did. No. They're two different teams. I know a lot of the same guys are still on the team, but that's a long time in NFL years. That's a long time in between 2019 and 2021. So I don't like making that comparison. But what I will say is this. You're starting to see this defense gain confidence, and that is something we have not seen for the first 7 weeks of the season. No confidence. Outside of that second half in the Washington, or I would say 3-4 quarters in the Washington football game, outside of that, for the majority of this season, we've seen a defense lost, directionless, not making adjustments, and just getting pounded, beat up, bullied all 4 quarters. Well, that has changed. But I now need to see something outside of from this defense, outside of playing against Daniel Jones or Jordan Love or Taylor Heinicke. You better beat up those guys. You better look this good against those kind of quarterbacks, because those kind of quarterbacks shouldn't be beating NFL defenses. Now the Chiefs have a prime opportunity in front of the entire world against the Raiders and against Derek Carr, who has had an insanely good season, who has been a top 10 quarterback this year, an MVP candidate at times. Yep. They have a real opportunity to do the same thing against him. And then they have Dak Prescott 1 week later, who is also a top 10 quarterback, who is also having an MVP candidate season. This is the time for the Chiefs to say, okay, you've done what you've done against these scrub young quarterbacks. Now do it against the top tier quarterbacks, because we know for the first 4 or 5 weeks what this Chiefs defense did against Lamar Jackson, against Justin Herbert, even Jalen Hurts. Guys like that have the ability to extend plays and extend drives with their legs and extend drives with their strong arms. We've seen this Chiefs defense get beat up. If this Chiefs defense has finally settled into who and what they are and have gained confidence, Frank Clark is finally becoming who we were expecting him to be all this time, a guy that's making $1.4 million per game, then I need to see that this week and the next week and from weeks thereon. I'm not saying they got to be perfect. I'm not sitting here saying they got to keep them to 15 points, because that's more than likely not possible regardless of what defense you are when you're facing great quarterbacks. But I need to see this defense give the offense some life and alleviate the pressure from Patrick Mahomes, not just against bad, inferior young quarterbacks, but against the guys that can go there and trade blows with Patrick Mahomes, and that's what they are the next couple of weeks. Trevor, what was your takeaway from this Chiefs-Packers game?
Yeah, I mean, it was not a fun game at all. Very, very non-exciting game for the most part. Outside of it was. I'll just start with the offense. I mean, you take away that interception from Jordan Love. I mean, him and Patrick Mahomes had very similar games, and he actually had a better stat line than Patrick Mahomes did. He had more rushing yards, more passing yards, same amount of touchdowns thrown. The only difference was he had more yards per attempt. The only difference between the two is he threw a pick. So that's not exciting. I get it, that last throw to Tyreek, and it only takes, it's just like in basketball or golf or baseball. You had that one good swing, that one good jumper that hits nothing but net. You see it go in. It could be that one throw to Tyreek Hill at the end of a game that can, ignite that rhythm again that we all know Patrick has. And once he gets that rhythm, it's very dangerous. Probably the most dangerous quarterback in the league when he's got that rhythm down and he's hitting his guys. Yeah, I mean, I still have a lot of questions for this offense. I mean, this offense is far too talented to be struggling this long for multiple weeks now. We've looked like a bad offense, just completely out of sync. Nothing much changed in that game for me. Hopefully that can heading into this Raider game, we can build upon that last throw if that's what everyone wants to think that last throw was.
How important do you think that throw was?
To start the fire?
I want to get that thought. How important do you think that throw was? Because
it could be everything.
We've heard Aaron Rodgers talk about this on the Pat McAfee show, that when quarterbacks get yips,
that's
one throw can change things.
That's been a statement that's been thrown around the league forever.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a rhythm thing. I mean, the quarterback, it's just like a great 3-point shooter like Steph. We've seen Steph Curry have slumps where he's missing a lot of shots. I mean, you know what I mean? And then all of a sudden, he's dropping 9 3-pointers like a couple nights ago, like he did, and drops 50 plus. Like that's just. That can definitely happen. I just think it's more than just Pat. Obviously, it starts with Pat because he's the quarterback, but this offense has just been completely out of sync. With the receivers, not breaking, at the proper time, and Pat just not having that timing down. There's just a lot of things in flux, I think, and it's a lot of it all comes down to discipline for me. That's what since the beginning of the struggle started, has been my thing. Obviously, we know this defense has been undisciplined for years. Honestly, with a lot of these guys, we'll make good plays here and there, but just lack of discipline all the way around. And we got the Nick Wrights of the world asking if this team even practices. That hits hard. You don't want to hear that as a Chiefs fan or a fan of the team you root for, questioning the pride and the discipline of this team. You know, and a lot of flags too. There were still too many flags. That's a discipline issue. Obviously, there's always going to be bad calls every game, but when you're damn near the league top of the league every year, there's a trend, man. We gotta get better at that. Overall, there's not really much to take away offensively because there wasn't a lot of points scored in this game. You know, we would move when we opened the game. That opening drive was nice. We were doing what we needed to do. Pat was, you know, dinking and dunking, but he made it look good. You know, Pat can do that. He's got that sauce. That's what he does. So, and we got guys that you get the ball in their hands, big things can happen at any time. You know, we have multiple guys like that in this field on the field. So, Mecole Hardman, I don't know, man. I don't know what to think about him. Too many drop passes, too many fumbles. Ball security is an issue, whether it's a punt return or just on a regular, you know, out route, you know, or a slant. Like it's I don't know. I don't know what it's just like the whole team has the yips, to be honest. There's definitely and it's strange. I think this whole offense obviously clings to the synchronized relationship between Patrick Mahomes and Kelsey. That's been what gets the gears going for this offense since they've been teammates. They've had that telekinesis type connection where they know. You know, Kelsey knows where Patrick's gonna want the ball. He finds that open spot in the defense. And these defenses have been honing in on that. They've been bullying Kelsey. Kelsey's a little banged up. They've been zoning everybody out, making it difficult to find any kind of, you know, open spots in the defense, any kind of holes in the defense. And we've got to find ways to beat that. You know, we've got to keep these defenses honest. And I will hark on it again. I think we need to run the ball more. I really, really do. I think even in that game, we were running the ball well for the most part, and we got away from it. We would have a running play on a first down for like 5-6 yards, and then we'd throw three straight times. Yep. Why? Why would you do that? It's just I just feel like Andy Reid or Patrick Mahomes, maybe the relationship between the two, they both kind of get in their own heads where the NFL football is a tough sport, man. Defenses are smart, teams are smart, coaches are smart. We can't be arrogant enough to think that we beat the game. You know, that we cracked some kind of code. I think we did there for a couple seasons, you know, but the league always catches up. You know, it's just like being in the UFC. There's always going to be someone tougher than you. There's always going to be someone who's going to catch you. Boxing, too. You know, you could be the greatest of all time in your mind, or even statistically the greatest of all time. There's always going to be that one night, that one fighter. May not be better than you, but they'll catch you. You'll get caught every once in a while. And I think the league has adapted to the Chiefs. I think a lot of teams have adapted to stopping the Chiefs, because the Chiefs were doing something that was unprecedented offensively. So I think a lot of these defenses have molded their defenses to slow us down, and it's working. And we have to adapt too. You know, so that's what I'm expecting. I just think our team is far too talented. I think Pat's too great to not break out of this. He's in a slump 100%. Everyone knows that. The entire analytical world of the NFL, everyone on talking shows knows it. We all see it. And I think Pat knows it too. I think he's in his own head right now, but I think he just needs and it could have been that one throw for sure. Not much more to go on the offense there. I think everyone knows we need to get better, and I think we all expect him to. Defensively, man, I'm loving what I'm seeing from this defense. I think Chris Jones being moved back to the middle. I know he was moved around. He used to play the edge a little bit still here and there, but moving him around is great. Just having the quarterback at all times having to know and worry about Chris Jones being moved around in the middle, whether he's on the edge. Melvin Ingram immediately had a pressure his first snap.
He looked awesome.
So, I mean, just having that veteran guy on the edge there was great. Frank Clark is healthy, and I think we all can notice that now, and that's a big difference too.
Or he just gives a fuck.
Maybe
both.
I do believe he was banged up the first few weeks of this year. I mean, obviously he wasn't even barely practicing either, so I don't think that was. It could have been a combination of him being unhealthy and just whether he would play real football or not. But he's looking aggressive as hell. Maybe the best version of Frank Clark I think we've seen since he's been a Chief. You know, just as far as the consistency level goes. Because we all know he would take plays off even in his great year, his first year here, he was balling. But he's very consistently out there being very aggressive, and I love what I see out of him. And I love that Hitchens came back and was very aggressive as well. I was curious to see what they were going to do with him with the performance of Willie Gay and Nick Bolton. But that if we can get that aggression out of Hitchens every week, and those three guys can rotate in and out, that is a killer linebacker core right there. Because we know what Hitchens can do. We've seen Hitchens be great. But the last couple of seasons, he hasn't really been that guy that we paid him to be. But if he can consistently, play with that kind of pride, maybe that Twitter situation lit a fire under his ass to go out there, feel like he needed to prove something. You know what I mean? Things like that, negative situations like that can turn into positives, right? Because these guys, regardless of how we feel about them, most of these NFL players have a lot of pride. regardless if they're paid fat or not. These guys don't want to be looked at as a subpar athlete. So I'm loving what Willie Snead finally had a great game. And that's correlated to the upfront pressure.
Are you talking about Lord Snead? Lord Jarius?
Yeah. We can call him that again.
He was the Lord on the field for sure.
Yeah, there has been. He got burned a couple. I think he got burnt once in that Packers game. But outside of that.
You have the landlord, and you have Lord Jarius.
And Tyrann Mathieu, we called him. Tyrann Mathieu, we called him, and we said he's having a big game. He should have had a pick and a sack. Like I said I think he very likely could get a pick and a sack. He should have had that pick. Yep. That's bad on him. He got to catch that ball.
That's the unfortunate thing about Tyrann is the fact that he's so great at football.
He knows how to be in the right spot.
But he gets overshadowed with his own personality sometimes. Unfortunately, I have to say that. Like we love that about the boisterous, fiery personality, but sometimes the way he directs it kind of steers and veers from what he is, which is a great future Hall of Fame football player.
Yeah, I mean, and we didn't let Devontae Adams really get off, which was good. I mean, granted, Jordan Love doesn't have that connection that him and
Snead
Aaron Rodgers
owned him, dude.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So that's saying a lot, regardless of who's throwing the football. That's one of the best receivers in the world at creating space.
Yeah.
So L'Jarius Snead, kudos to him. He looked great. That all comes from the pressure up front as well. So if we can constantly create pressure up front, that's going to make our secondary look so much better, and it showed. But like you said, man, this week starting here, we're playing a good quarterback. And this is a good opportunity for us to continue that trend and show that this is not a facade, that we're feasting on the weak and the vulnerable. So I like what I'm seeing defensively. I like the packages and the blitz packages that we've been getting. That with the Spags has been showing. He's definitely. It's been more of an aggressive package that we've been putting out there. So I enjoy it. I still don't understand why Dan Sorensen's getting any snaps. Almost every single scoring position, every single time the opposition is scoring, it's on Dan Sorensen.
Right, and I think
you take him away, we might have scored.
That's
what
we saw.
We
saw something. We saw something in this game. I'm going to steer to Eddie and just after this.
Rambling.
I just want to say this real quick. The whole thing about Dan Sorensen, the biggest issue with him is when he's in coverage. Mm-hmm. Same with Ben Neiman.
Oh, he's a good blitzer.
You saw,
he's a good blitzer.
When they utilized him and Ben Neiman in the blitz packages, it was effective.
Yeah.
So send the horses if you want to when it comes to blitzes. You can't. Dan Sorensen, the only touchdown that was given up was because he did an Olay on the sidelines and gave up the touchdown. That's the whole point, is that you cannot allow him to be out there one-on-ones or nickel dime packages because he just gets ate up. So
even on a tight end, he's getting burnt.
That's where I have a problem. You saw how effective, like I said, Dan and Ben were when they were getting sent. They were penetrating the line, getting pressure on Jordan Love. They made his night a living hell.
The worst part about that play was he not only got burnt, dude caught the ball. He had a chance.
Olayed him,
he had a chance to tackle him.
Fucking two-hand touched him
by the out of bounds line. Could have just pushed him out.
He was like intramurals. He was like doing two-hand touch out there.
I'm gonna let you score the fucking touchdown. Yeah. That was embarrassing.
Every
single week we got to play like that.
Eddie Ortiz, what was your takeaway from this last week's game against the Packers?
All right, man. Started with the offense. It was pretty shaky at first. First drive, I'll give them that. They were dinking and they were driving the ball. Yeah. Pat was driving the ball. They were running the ball. It was just a good collection of football in the offensive drive. The first drive, but then they got desperate. I don't know what happened. I don't know if Andy just got desperate and wanted to score more points. They went away from the running game. They started trying to make that home run ball, which we know it's not working right now. So why go to something that you know it's not working? That was my biggest frustration with the offense. Just them trying to always make that home run ball. If you make it once or twice, okay, it is what it is. Don't try to make it every single play. Try to make that home run ball. You know Patrick Mahomes is in a slump. You know Travis Kelce is banged up. You know Tyreek Hill's getting covered, double coverage. Why go to something you know it's not going to work? Just keep on doing what you're doing. Run the ball. Make those quick passes. Do the quick slant. Just do what's working with the first drive. Just keep that going. And it feels like it's every week. The first drive is always a good drive. They either score field goals or they score touchdowns, but it's always a good drive. It ends in a good drive. But as soon as the second drive begins, they go away completely from what they did the first drive. And they do that consistently throughout the game. They just go away from what worked in the first drive. And then towards the end of the game, they start going back to what they did in the first drive, and we saw that it started working again. So Chiefs need to be consistent, stay with what's working. Don't try to fix something that's working. That's my biggest issue. With the defense, I mean, other than Ben Neiman and Dan Sorensen being on the field, I think the defense played a great game. They were like Trevor said last week, blitz the fuck out of Jordan Love, blitz. That's all we needed to do, and sure enough, that should with blitz, and was it 24 times? I believe I read 24 times in that game. So that's something that the defense is getting there. It's putting the pressure on the quarterback. Yeah, he's a rookie, but that's what you need. Put that pressure on that quarterback because he's a rookie. He's barely getting. That's his first start in the NFL. Put the pressure on him, and I think Spagnuolo understood that assignment, and he did just that. Put that pressure on that quarterback, and like you said, defense makes bad offenses look bad, just what they are. And I think that motivation of what they've done the past, because it hasn't just been this week, it's been the past 2-3 games where the defense has actually stepped up and kind of gave that offense the opportunity to take the lead, to grow the lead even bigger. But obviously the offense, with the struggles that they have, they don't take advantage of that. But overall, I think this defense had a great game.
Yeah,
So,
and a couple takeaways I want to start with you guys. It's actually on the offensive side. You both addressed the run game, which I 100% agree with. And you guys know that I've been the one that's been pounding the table about they need to start putting the ball through the hands of the running backs more often, just to alleviate some pressure from Patrick and to create more of a balanced attack, which also alleviates pressure on Patrick. But here's the thing: is as good as Darrell Williams and Derek Gore have been at times over the last few weeks, this is also showing that Clyde Edwards-Helaire is a valuable commodity in this offense. And the reason why I say that is because of the fact that although we all could agree that he has not lived up to a first-round pick and the production that a first-round pick normally gives you, I think what it's showing, though, is that when he's on the field as opposed to not on the field, that balanced attack can work, but it's a lot more work for it to work. And what I mean by this is I went and looked at the numbers. So since 2020, when Clyde Edwards-Helaire first made his appearance with the Chiefs, this is playoffs included, the Chiefs, with or without Clyde, have the same winning percentage, which is 75%, which is awesome, right? So you can sit here and say, well, that means that they can win without him. But this is where the work comes in. So with Clyde Edwards-Helaire, the Chiefs' offense averages 31 points per game and 422 yards of offense. Without Clyde, they only average 19 points per game and 373 yards per game. So they're averaging 12 fewer points per game and about 50 yards less per game than with or without Clyde. So I'm not sitting here saying that he's the end-all, be-all. What I'm saying, though, is while other defenses are starting to, quote-unquote, figure the Chiefs out and give them more of a challenging front to stop them from scoring at will like they are so accustomed to, Clyde becomes that much more pivotal because as we remember in 2018, and I always use this as an example, how the Chiefs' offense was simply unstoppable for those first 10 weeks. Why? You could say, well, Patrick Mahomes was on an historic pace, which he was. But who was the biggest key contributor to that offense with Patrick? It wasn't Travis Kelce. It wasn't Tyreek Hill. It was Kareem Hunt. It was the running back that was making the most impact with Patrick Mahomes, more than Travis Kelce, who had 1,300 yards and 10 touchdowns.
Even with Alex Smith, it was a
yes.
Yeah.
He led the league in rushing just the year before, and then goes and has 14 touchdowns in 10 games, and was on pace for about 2,000-plus yards and 28 touchdowns. So that's the kind of guy the Chiefs need. Now, Clyde may never be that guy that Kareem Hunt was in 2018, but again, these numbers show and they indicate that with Clyde, this offense can get back to some sort of semblance as far as a dominant offense once again. We saw him in those games against the Chargers, Ravens, and Eagles. Even though he had his mistakes, he put the ball on the ground multiple times. Yeah. He was effective in the pass game as the season started to progress, because we asked for that, and he was running for about 4.8 yards per carry. That's way better than Darrell Williams. That's way better than Derek Gore to this point. So we have to give him his credit for what he is in this offense and how he's able to utilize this offensive line the Chiefs rebuilt.
Yeah, one thing I'll say to that is just I still don't like the utilization of Clyde. Like, we drafted him as a receiving specialist back. That was his biggest strength and what stood out the most on any of his film at LSU. And that's also what was so great about Kareem Hunt, too. I mean, you said he scored 14 touchdowns in how many games?
10.
And I think 5 or 6 of them.
7 of them. It was 7 and 7. It was 7 and 7.
So, I mean, we got to use Clyde that way. Clyde's the better receiving back than even Kareem Hunt was. That was his specialty. He was incredible. He set records at LSU for that, for receiving yards from the running back position. So That's my biggest grief. Like, I love Clyde. I don't want to hate the pick right now. I don't like the pick very much because of where he was taken, the capital that was used.
Sure.
Because it hasn't. I mean, granted, he had a good year last year, a really good year last year for a rookie. But it could have been even far better than it was. You know, I mean, if we utilize him the similar how we use Kareem Hunt. Granted, he's not Kareem Hunt as the runner. Kareem Hunt's just an absolute better runner and an absolute bruiser. That's not how Clyde is. But at the same time, I mean, just use him in some red zone packages, in the passing game, wheel routes, whatever we got to do, just get him more involved. That's my only grievance. Like, I think he's so talented. I think Clyde's so good. We're just not unlocking him.
Yeah.
That's my biggest problem. Like, and we're not doing with really any of the running backs. We're not really throwing to the running backs that much this year, and that's kind of been Andy Reid's MO since his early Philly days. The Westbrooks and all these guys that have a ton of receptions and was that was an integral part of the West Coast offense. I mean, maybe it's evolved. Maybe the West Coast offense is kind of, but I mean, we've seen it in a lot of other coaches. In Minnesota, and the way they use Dalvin Cooks. That's a West Coast offense feel, and it's very much involved and reliant on the passing prowess of the running back core. I feel like we need to get back to that. I feel like that's especially with our running back group that we have here, and with the the relevance of Gore now, who's an absolute stud, who's got maybe the best burst of all the running backs in this roster. I think we need to utilize those guys more. I think we've been doing it as it's been trending more and more each week for the most part, but it's still not enough to me.
Yeah. Now, the running, I want to attack two more things before we get to the Eddie Hour. Switching to the defensive side real quick. You've seen the way the Chiefs' defense went from being historically awful against the run to now being actually one of the better running defenses in the league over the last 3 weeks.
Yeah.
Now, you can attribute that to, again, Daniel Jones did not have Saquon Barkley 2 weeks ago, so that takes them completely out of the equation because they had no running backs outside of him that are really all that much to mention. Yeah. And then you have Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon in Green Bay, but again, when you don't have Aaron Rodgers, they're stacking the boxes, they're blitzing the shit out of your rookie quarterback. So, again, I'm not going to really sit here and say that, they fixed the defense. Mm-hmm. But I think there is something to it that once a defense gets that confidence against the running game and they start to make quarterbacks have to just try to win games with their arm, that all of a sudden, even though we're in a more pass-friendly NFL over the last 10 to 15 years, I think that obviously gives the Chiefs a better chance of winning because you see guys like Tyrann Mathieu and Lord Jerry Sneed make big plays in the air. Charvarius Ward being back was a big impact.
You look good, too.
Yeah, exactly.
We didn't even mention Derek Nottie.
Exactly. Yeah. Derek Nottie had a lot of influence up front. So once you start to force offenses to be one-dimensional, we're almost seeing a mirror reflection of what team defense has been doing to Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs offense. To where, Patrick's going to have to throw the ball 10 to 15 times. Andy Reid just refuses to run the ball for whatever fucking reason. So now we're making the Chiefs try to win the game one-dimensionally, on offense. Well, now the Chiefs are doing that to other opposing offenses as well, and you're seeing the balance start to shift. You're starting to see the Chiefs get a lot more confidence on the defensive side. So are you guys seeing it the same way as I am? As they still have things to fix on the defense, but one thing I'm starting to feel a lot more confident about is the way that they're hitting and attacking the run game. Because since that Derrick Henry performance when Nick Bolton did what he did against him, which basically made Derrick Henry his child, which I've not seen Derrick Henry ever be someone's child before. He's been making children, with Josh Norman and guys like that, and Earl Thomas. He got sunned against Nick Bolton. And since then, I'm starting to see a trajectory on the defensive side where I'm like, you know what? I can see the Chiefs becoming one of the 15 better defenses in rushing defense. And once that happens, your defense starts to really take shape into a premier defense.
Yeah, I mean, I've been on the Nick Bolton train since we drafted him. I loved that pick. I love those kinds of Mike linebackers. I just love those kind of hard-nosed, meet him in the back. That's why I love DJ so much. DJ was incredible meeting running backs in the backfield before they even got a chance to find that hole. He was hitting the gap before they did. And I love linebackers like that. So Nick Bolton is absolutely becoming a problem in this league, and it's like the league is taking notice. He leads the league still in tackles for loss. So that's 100% been a great thing to see him become that. I think he's only going to build off of that. I mean, he's a rookie. Most rookie linebackers don't lead the league in tackles for loss. That doesn't happen very often. So that's a promising building storyline there. And then the addition of Hitchens getting back and being healthy, and then Frank Clark being healthy. I think Chris Jones moving back to the middle was the biggest important thing we had to change. I think that's just what makes this defense work. I think Spags knows that. I think we tried. I love the idea of him coming off the edge. I just don't think it's as natural. I don't think the muscle memory is there. Maybe if they want to try another offseason, try to work on it, and maybe try it again next season, whatever. We could try again, but I think he's just naturally just his bull rush up the middle just makes quarterbacks so uneasy.
Yeah.
And I think it shows. But yeah, man, I think this defense definitely. I think this defense as a whole unit, not even just the defensive front, but I think we know our secondary talent is good. We just needed the upfront pressure to, show that. Because that's every defense.
Yeah, you see how different this defense is when Frank Clark is playing at a high level.
I mean, look at
you see how much better they are.
Any good secondary, and then the Rams or whatever. A great defensive front makes all the difference.
Take Aaron Donald out of that Rams defense, and all of a sudden you're seeing an exposed secondary. They'll still be good in LA, but Jalen Ramsey's job becomes that much more difficult.
That's why football starts in the trenches. Like very rarely do you see a great offense with a terrible O-line. Outside of. That's what makes Patrick so great because he didn't have a very good O-line his rookie year, but he was making so many plays when the play broke down and he's running out of the pocket. That's what made him so great. Not a lot of quarterbacks can do that.
Right.
But the majority, any kind of pocket passing quarterback is going to struggle if you have a terrible O-line. The offense is not going to be good. Same thing on the defense.
Yeah.
That secondary is going to make plays if you're not making the quarterbacks uneasy and forcing them out of the pocket.
Right.
So that's that's the beauty of this defense. I think this defense has a good chance to be a top 10 defense when it's all said and done at the end of this year.
That's hot.
Because look, we have so much talent, man. Yeah. And I think Bolton has overperformed the idea of because he wasn't even supposed to start. Hitchens got hurt, so he starting. Willie Gay was hurt to start the year, so he was starting a lot there next to Hitchens. So he's had a lot of playing time that he probably wasn't expecting to have, and he's shined. And I think if we can get to slow the run, that's how most great defenses start. You stop the run game, force a team to be one-dimensional. It's similar to what defenses are doing to the Chiefs right now. You know what I mean? So, but we're doing it to ourselves because we're not running the ball at all. But I think this defense is too talented. This roster is just too talented in general to keep being as bad as we've been. And I think the leadership with Tyrone and Hitchens and Chris Jones, I think these guys will get it right. And I think it starts this week.
Someone on Facebook said, "Don't forget Tommy."
Well, that's actually the next thing I was going to bring up because the real reason the Chiefs won this game, I'm glad somebody just said that. That's literally what I'm looking at right now. The real reason the Chiefs won this game is because of field position, and that's all praise to Tommy Townsend.
Yeah, man.
He had 6 punts. He had 6 punts in this game.
Yeah.
The Chiefs had 6 punts, I think, in their first 5 games. So Tommy Townsend wasn't getting a lot of work early in the year, so I guess you could say he was getting rested.
I don't like that we get to talk about this, but yeah.
But he had 6 punts. He was averaging 57 yards a punt, which is awesome, right? Awesome. He put them inside the 25 times. Yeah. That means Jordan Love never felt comfortable because of the way that the Chiefs were blitzing him, but also the fact that he had to go 75, 85, 90 yards every drive. Yeah. Every time they got the ball back from the Chiefs, he's pinned back. So he's like, shit, I'm going to have to run 10 to 15 plays at minimum to get a scoring drive. You can't expect a rookie quarterback to be doing that on the road on Monday Night Football. Like, it's not fair.
Still a one-score game, but yeah.
I'm just saying, it's just funny how that worked out. Almost not Monday Night Football. It's a middle of the Sunday game. But 80% of the fucking nation was watching that game, so Jordan had a lot of pressure on himself. And for Tommy Townsend to do that special teams, the way they play Dave Tobe, as much as we criticize him for times about special teams flags and things of that nature, special teams this season has been unbelievably good for the Chiefs, man. So I got to give them. I'm glad someone said that in the comments because that was going to be my next take. But Eddie, real quick before we move to the Eddie Hour, your confidence in the Chiefs' defense on the rushing side of things and what that you think that's going to do for the rest of the season?
Yes, like I mentioned earlier, I said the defense has been carrying this for the past 2-3 games. It did not just happen against the Packers. It's something that they've been working on. It's something that obviously Spagnuolo's kind of getting the hang of it. Obviously, moving Chris Jones back to his regular position really increased that front seven. They started getting those pressures. Obviously, Frank Clark playing the way he's playing. 2 of his greatest games have been in the past 2 games. I think there's no coincidence. Just this front seven is starting to become who we thought they could become. Yes, you can argue it was against a rookie quarterback. It's been against bad quarterbacks, but you got to think about the Green Bay Packers O-line. That's the same O-line that Aaron Rodgers uses, and that's a good O-line. That's not just any scrub out there. That's a good O-line, and the defense was putting that pressure in. So you got to give them praise when it's due. Yeah. And I think this was a game where we finally saw the defense, the front seven, breaking through a great O-line to get to the quarterback. I think the defense starting to become more of a blitz type of defense than conservative, I guess you can say. It's starting to show. We're starting to put pressure on the quarterbacks, making them force them to do mistakes. So I think this defense definitely taking steps in the right direction. I don't know with Trev. I don't think I agree with Trev saying the top. You said top 10 defense.
I think they have a chance to finish the year at the end of the year.
I don't see it. I can see probably a top 20 defense maybe at the end of the year. I don't see him going all the way to the top 10 defense.
Momentum, man.
I get it, but at the same time,
We got a tough schedule.
yeah, we have. So I mean, we'll see. We still have good quarterbacks coming up with Joe Burrow. We still got Derek Carr. So we still got some
Justin Herbert one more time.
Justin Herbert, and then you have
Teddy Bridgewater.
Dak Prescott.
Yeah.
Hopefully he plays next week. We don't know.
Yeah.
So there's still good quarterbacks in the schedule. So we'll see what this defense is built. Obviously tomorrow is going to be a good quarterback. So we'll see how this
Finally
defense,
healthy, man. That's the thing,
we'll
too.
see how this defense handles a good quarterback. But I think this defense taking a step in the good
I
direction.
do want to say one thing. I don't know if you guys saw the breaking news.
Yeah, I was actually going to bring that up. Yeah, so
it.
according to Adam Schefter, on the same day the team signed wide receiver Odell Beckham Jr., Rams wide receiver Robert Woods tore his ACL at practice Friday. That is, he's saying sources tell Diane receive from ESPN.
So I'm guessing that's why he got signed.
So, well, an OBJ is going to get targets now because this was going to be
No,
the
they
concern.
didn't know he was. This was
They were talking about OBJ and Van Jefferson
the same
fighting
day
for a
Odell
spot.
signed.
Yeah.
He tore his ACL that practice.
Yeah, so
That's crazy.
during that practice, they signed OBJ and then he tore
That
his
sucks.
ACL.
I love Robert Woods.
So that sucks
man.
to see, man. And I hope Robert Woods can get a speedy
Trees.
recovery. He's been a little frustrated with his role this season because Cooper Kupp's been getting insane
Yeah, but that's a
volume.
huge loss, though.
Van Jefferson,
Van
Jefferson was getting a ton of receptions as well.
We don't know if Odell's even going to do good in that offense.
Well, now that Robert Woods isn't there,
Yeah.
Nah, he's gonna get.
But we don't know if Odell's good anymore.
He's gonna get those targets.
we can talk about that in a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a
saying.
question.
So now it is time for the Eddie Hour. Each and every week we give Eddie an opportunity to take over the show and give us some thought-provoking questions. Usually gets me triggered at least 69% of the time. Eddie, the floor is yours. What is in the Eddie Hour?
All right, man, let's go right into it. We're just talking about it right now. That was my first question. Odell Beckham Jr. to the Rams. And obviously now with the breaking news, I want to get your thoughts and reactions to that.
So just to kind of step back a little bit to bring to my current take on this, when I heard the news that OBJ was released from the Browns, I knew that there was going to be an influx of takes that the Chiefs should go and get OBJ. I have been steadily on the stand that, and I still am with this, that OBJ, although he's been a damn good receiver in the past, he has now become more of a brand and a name than an actual performer on the field. That's based upon his availability physically because he's missed 30 games over the last 4 seasons. That's a lot of games. Yeah. He's only averaged around like 560, 70 yards over the last 3 seasons. He has 7 touchdowns over the last 3 seasons. OBJ, you can make all the excuses about Baker Mayfield or the quarterback situations that he's had. You've seen his production dwindle year after year after year. And so I, although was not opposed to the idea of the Chiefs getting OBJ, I was looking at it realistically that he was not going to come in here and perform at a high level with the Chiefs, even though on paper it looks like it would make so much sense. Because also the fact that with the Chiefs' struggles on offense, it isn't a lack of talent. It's a lack of precision. It's a lack of mental awareness. A lot of mistakes are being made. The Chiefs didn't need to add more talent in order to be a good offense. It wasn't like you add OBJ and all of a sudden everything's fixed. He's not a quarterback psychologist. And that's what's been plaguing the Chiefs this year offensively is Patrick Mahomes being in his own head. We know all the situations, and I didn't think OBJ was going to fix that. I'm pissed at myself that I didn't see the Rams being the team that were going to come and grab him because it makes so much sense. From a market standpoint, from a relationship standpoint he has with LeBron and several players on the Rams, even newly acquired Von Miller. Him and LeVon are really good friends.
Odell's much more of a celebrity at this point than he is an athlete.
Exactly. So I'm almost pissed at myself that I never saw that one coming. Yeah. But the Rams are sneaky like that. And Jalen Ramsey, man, I got to give him some props. Because on November 1st, he posted that thing on Twitter with him doing this bad boy. About 30 minutes later, they signed Von Miller. Then he posts that again, and about an hour later, they sign OBJ.
All these players talk to each
He
other.
retweeted that tweet saying, "I'm feeling this mood again."
Yes, and then he knew.
Shit.
So I'm gonna give the Rams credit, man, because they're all in, and they better be in the fucking Super Bowl. We might see back-to-back teams host Super Bowls for the first time in NFL history, let alone one time last year. So I like the signing for the Rams, but I'm still sticking on the realistic side of things, with OBJ, and what to expect with him. But hey, if it was gonna make sense anywhere, I think the Rams are one of the few teams that make sense on the football side of things because of the fact that Matt Stafford's balling this year. Sean McVay always gets the best out of his weapons, and I think that the Rams are a team that are probably bound for the Super Bowl. So And all in all, I'm happy for OBJ, and I'm honestly happy he didn't come to Kansas City because of the fact, like I said, I think he'd been a sheer disappointment when what the fans were expecting from a production standpoint.
Well, yeah, I mean, it not only makes a lot of sense for the Rams, but it's that much more important now that Robert Woods is out. I mean, that's say what you want about Robert Woods. He hasn't been utilized as much as he has been in past years, but he's very much a big integral part of that offense. They use him in the running game. They use him in the in-route plays, the jet sweeps and stuff in the red zone. They love using him in plays like that, so he's a big part of that offense still, even though Cooper Kupp is having an absolute monster year. So, yeah, I mean, Beckham is going to be leaned on, it looks like, immediately. Like, they're going to need him to be that wide receiver, too, probably now. I mean, granted, they have Van Jefferson, who I like as well over there, who's an up-and-coming decent wide receiver in that offense, is targeted a lot as well. That's a pass-heavy offense, but yeah, man, that's a big loss for them. So, I mean, Odell is definitely going to be utilized probably more than he even realized he would be immediately now with that vacancy at the wide receiver 2 spot. So, I mean, as far as the Chiefs going after, I was all in on Odell. I just like having that. I wanted to have that extra skill because he's very much a skilled technician as far as a route runner. He's one of the best route runners we've ever seen. The dude's skill set in route running is incredible. That's what made him so great. He wasn't like an absolute speedster or anything like that. He had good hands, and he's a very good route runner. He's like a souped-up Keenan Allen. There's very similar receivers. He's just better than Keenan Allen. But they're both very technically sound receivers, and they're good at getting space. And that's what I wanted in this offense, was a guy that can go get space. I loved the Josh Gordon signing because of his size and his speed ratio and in the red zone. We haven't used him. I don't know why. I loved that signing because I like Josh Gordon, what he is. A jump up and get it kind of guy. He's an extreme athlete. And then same thing with Odell. Odell's that what we were missing as far as just a technically sound route runner for the third receiver position, because McCole hasn't been that. He hasn't been it this year. It's unfortunate, but it's just the facts. So I was hoping to see maybe we can get him in as that third receiver, and that can unlock something in this offense. Maybe having another technically sound receiver alongside Tyreek Hill, because he's already a great route runner as it is and an absolute freak athletically. So having that balance would have been nice. But I mean, like I said, leading into this question, we don't know what Odell is right now. We don't know. We don't know if it was Baker holding him back or if he's just holding himself back because he's not that good anymore. He's gone through some massive injuries. That can catch up to you. And he's still a young man. I think he's only 29 or 30. Barely
he's 29.
Yeah. So I mean, in receiver years, that's not that old. That's really like your peak years. From 25 to 30, 31-ish, that's like the peak years of receivers. So he's still very much in that peak as far as years go, but it is what it is. I mean, the Rams snuck up and took him. I thought he was going to go to the Saints. I thought he was going to go home. But I don't know, man. I think there's some mental things he's dealing with, too. I mean, you ruined that situation with your best friend Jarvis Landry in Cleveland. A very good roster over there. If you mess that up, I think he can mess it up anywhere he goes. So it depends on how he's going to be in the locker room. But I would trust Sean McVay would figure out a way to get Odell Beckham some touches and make him look as good as he possibly can.
Well, after his return, after his first game with the Rams, I'm sure his dad and him are gonna, set up a video of why he's not getting targeted.
Yeah, right.
So
why don't his dad and him just go play catch and then talk about that? I could have hit my son better than this throw. If you kind of balance it out where you criticize yourself as well, maybe you could take that a little more seriously. I've never even seen the video, but I know it's probably a little cringe.
Well, his dad's in the game. They need to send him up to the nosebleeds like the Packers did to Jordan Love's mom.
but the thing is, I was reading that the Chiefs have no. That's Jordan Love buying tickets.
Well, the Packers. I think the Packers are in charge of where the
across the league. Opposing teams have certain sections in the stands, and they're all about the same area. You can choose to pay for inside. What do they call those? Suite tickets. You can pay for those. That's up to Jordan
Love. But they will
though.
sell out if you don't get to if you don't talk to the Chiefs and coordinate that.
Yeah.
The Chiefs will sell them.
So I had a viral tweet this week. It went all over the place, literally all over the place. And I actually did see one of the comments because I had to mute that freaking thread after a while because it was just blowing up my phone. Yeah. I did see one. Somebody said something that was freaking hilarious. Though they're like, "Well, in defense of the Packers, they're not used to their quarterback having family at the games." So. That was freaking hilarious. So I'm going to give them a pass on that one, dude, because this is the first time in 14 years where the Packers had to worry about the quarterback's family showing up.
Oh, shit. He has a mom and fuck.
Right.
There's been so many tweets about that. There was even a tweet that Bears game when the ref bumped into what's his name and then threw the
Tony
flag
Curran,
super high.
Yeah.
There's a tweet talking about, he threw that flag all the way up to Jordan Love's mom because he was so ready to throw that flag straight up in the air. That's such a fun story.
So We'll get to that in a little bit.
Yeah.
We'll touch that. Next question, I'm going to jump into baseball. So, obviously, baseball's over, but the biggest story in baseball is Carlos Correa. Will he return to the Astros, or do you see him go somewhere else because he is the most valuable player out there right now in the free agency?
Usually when you have guys that are on teams that go on multiple World Series trips in like a 4-year span, those guys usually have teams vying for them and end up overspending for those guys. So I'm probably leaning more on the side that Correa is going to get paid somewhere else. The Astros are a team where I don't think they're going to change their stripes. What I mean by that is they're not going to become that team where all of a sudden they're just paying a bunch of people, because that's not historically what they are. Now they have gone on an historic pace, so maybe Correa, I think, who's now 29 years old himself, I think now this is the time where he needs to maximize his value. And you've been to multiple World Series and you've won one of them, I think that you need to go and cash out. So if I was Correa, I'd go out and get paid somewhere, maybe even a bigger market. I know that always the Phillies, Yankees, Red Sox, teams like that are always going to be in the mix. So if a team out there is offering them $150, $200 million, you got to take it. So I'm leaning that way.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen big names, the biggest of names, the A-Rods, all these different players, all take money to go somewhere else, even when they have a great connection with that fan base and they've, succeeded with certain fan bases. But baseball, there's so much money in baseball. I don't blame any guy for wanting to go chase the money and secure that future for your family and your kids, and that's just something I'm not gonna put my hand in another man's pockets. Granted, however you feel about the man, and the things that have gone on with that franchise, and the scandals and all, but the guy's a great player regardless. Nonetheless, the dude's an insane talent and definitely, like you said, one of the most valuable players, if not the biggest hot commodity on the market right now. So. I think he probably does go elsewhere. I agree with Lance. I think he will get paid somewhere else, and it's probably time for, maybe a change over there in Houston too. I mean, who knows? But if I'm him, I probably would just, maybe get out of that. Maybe a change of scenery for what's all gone on there. Maybe a change of scenery would probably be best for both parties.
All right. This is a two-part kind of question. We're going to the NBA. Has this Warriors team impressed you so far into this new season? And is Steph Curry the greatest shooter to ever play this game?
I'm going to answer the first question, or second question first. I've always said, or I have been saying at least of late, that there's the two greatest shooters in NBA history are Steph Curry and Steph Curry on a bad night. Mm-hmm. Like, straight up. I've never seen anybody as great as him. And I'll even go as far as to say that I think he might be better at shooting than any other basketball player in the history in the NBA history at anything else.
Yeah.
Seriously, I think he's a better shooter than Magic Johnson was a passer. I think he's a better shooter than Dennis Rodman was a rebounder. I'm dead serious. I really believe he's that great at shooting.
Better than Steve Nash at free throws.
Yes, like he's legitimately better at that shooting than anyone else was at anything else. That's how great Steph is at shooting. I don't say that lightly. I truly believe he's that great. And the Warriors have absolutely surprised me. I have them as a playoff team. I think I had them as the 6th seed, if I'm not mistaken. But they look like the best team in the NBA right now. They legitimately look like that team. They look like that team that can get back to the finals and win the championship. Do I think that's going to happen? No. I think that this is a long season. I think we're in November. I think we're in the middle of November right now, and they look really good right now. Klay Thompson's supposed to be back sometime in December, but Klay Thompson's missed 2 full seasons of basketball. I don't really know what Klay Thompson they're going to be getting back and how long it's going to take him to get back to who Klay Thompson was if he ever does end up getting back to what Klay Thompson was. But right now, I'm going to give them credit. I'm going to say that this team has performed at a high level. I know Andrew Wiggins, I think, is a little banged up right now, so that might pay dividends on the negative side of things for the Warriors because he's their best perimeter defender. But Draymond Green's looked good. And Steph Curry looks like the best player in the fucking world right now. So yes, they have absolutely impressed me.
Yeah, I don't remember where I had them bracketed or where they had them in this. I think I had them going into this, at least into the second round in the playoffs. I think I had them finishing in a top 3 or 4 seed in the West. I liked them a lot actually heading into this year. That's just because I believe in Steph. I think that team is still good. Draymond Green's still a good contributor to that defense and facilitation of that offense. And then when Klay gets back, that's going to be a scary-ass team, man. That nucleus is still what it is, one of the greatest big 3 cores ever. I mean, that's as far as what they've done in this early in their careers and then carried that on. And then Steve Kerr is a great coach on top of all that. Yeah, I like this Warriors team. And I think they're deadly going into the playoffs so they can remain healthy. And Steph's playing like he's, prime Steph still, and that's exactly what he is. I think there was a stat I seen the other night on TV when I was watching them play. It was like the amount of games one player has had making 9+ 3-pointers. And I think second place was like James Harden with like 3 or 4 9 3-pointer games. Instead had like 35. Like there's not even a close. You can break it. You can take half of it away.
Yeah.
He's still
and I guarantee you,
the leader. It's
I guarantee
wild.
you, Steph on those games was like 9 for 18 or 9 for 21, and James was like 9 of 32. Like I guarantee you, the efficiency differences is also significant.
Yeah. So I mean, when I saw that, I was like, how 35 9 3-pointer games? Like that's bananas, dude. That is so strange. Just it looked like somebody mistyped something. 35. So yeah, I mean, just the other night, that 9 3-pointer game, 50-point burger type game was just unreal. It's just like I was watching vintage stuff. The guy's one of the most exciting players to ever watch in this league. He changed the game. Some old heads can say he changed the game for the worse because he can shoot from the logo and whatever. You can try to, like we've seen the Dennis Rodmans and these guys try to like downplay that as if that's not a true skill set.
Yeah.
Like, you don't understand the difficulty, let alone the strength, just to shoot freely from that far and be that deadly and that accurate. I mean, he deserves all the credit in the world. He's one of the greatest point guards of all time. By far, in my mind, the greatest shooter of all time. It's not even close. And then, yeah, I mean, so I can sit here and talk hoops all day, especially talk Steph Curry. I mean, he's one of the most electrifying, fun players to watch. The guy is he's been the greatest shooter in my mind for some years now. So, yeah, at this point, it's just like you just watch the highlight reel. I mean, a 9 3-pointer outing for Steph is just another day at the office, man. 35. It's wild.
Jeez. Well, you had him in the 7th seat, so you didn't like him that much.
Okay. I couldn't remember. I know I liked them, but yeah, I just think a lot of people were down on them this year, so I did expect them to be good though.
All right. Next question. So Jokic was suspended for 1 game for the what was it, the foul
Altercation,
the altercation with the Markieff Morris from the Heat. I believe Markieff Morris was fined. So was it fair, or should it have been more games?
There's a real problem with Jokic for some reason in the NBA that he's not getting the same respect that other MVPs have gotten because other MVPs don't get fouled like that. I've never seen LeBron James get literally body checked like that in the middle of the court.
Yeah.
Up 17 points in a game that's been decided with like a couple minutes left. Nikola Jokic had every right to react the way he did. Look, I have followed the Morris twins for about 13 years now.
Oh, I'm a big
Probably
fan of
longer
them.
than that.
Yeah.
Okay? And this is what they are. This is who they are. They literally will beg you to fight them.
They're goons.
They're goons.
Yeah.
They're good basketball players, but they're goons. They like to stir shit up. So it's funny to me when I hear people getting mad at Jokic for this when I'm like, guys, this is what the Morris twins want. It isn't that they just welcome it. They want it. They actually are asking for it. And he finally got it. Now, people are sitting here speculating as to whether Jokic should have hit him from the back. Here's the thing, though. Markieff Morris checked him and then turned his back. Jokic ain't sitting here thinking in his right mind at that time, so you can't blame him for coming at him. Because I really do believe Jokic would have went at Keith regardless of where his body position was. Markieff could have been looking right at him, and he would have went at him. Because that's just the kind of guy Jokic is. He comes from a family of MMA fighters, which, by the way, his brother is a pro MMA fighter now. His younger brother is actually a pro MMA fighter. So it's funny to me that Marcus is like quote tweeting stuff, acting all tough from a distance because they're playing each other the next few days. It's like, Markieff, what are you really going to... Marcus, what are you going to do? You going to go 1 for 10 from the field against Jokic and then act tough at the end of another blowout? Because that's what Jokic is, man. So I actually commend Jokic for fighting back and clapping back against a goon who has literally been asking for that. It's good to have guys like a Charles Oakley and like Markieff Morris who, do these things to rile guys up because it adds to the game. But when you do something dirty, you're getting dirty back against a grown man that has balls. And Jokic is one of those grown men. So I think this situation it played out the way it should have, or the way I would have handled it as well if I was Jokic.
Yeah, and Jokic is still very much, in a young career. He's not a guy that's been in the league very long. He's still, just won the MVP, like you said. He deserves some respect. And I don't think he can let that fly. Like, I think if you continue to let things like that fly and you're passive about it, you're going to get punked continuously. And I think him being not only a big, but a very versatile big and a very uncoordinated type of player, but he's so dominant in such a unique way. He's one of the most unique big men we've ever seen.
Yeah, Keith knew what he was doing.
Yes, so I think he is a hot-headed guy. He does have moments where he'll talk trash. But I mean, like you said, the Morris twins, as much as I love them, and I think as much as they are valuable to every team they go to because of that, because they're good at doing that. Now, Jokic is out of game or whatever. I think it's just one game, right? One game suspension. I don't think there should have been any much. I think I think the league handled it fine. I don't think there's anything. I mean, that's just a. We're going to talk about the league being soft today. There was much worse things going on in the 80s.
Shit, that was a normal Thursday in the NBA 20 years ago.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen Kareem Abdul-Jabbar straight up punch dudes in the face and break his hand.
He pieced up Larry Bird.
Yeah. So the league has come a long way.
That was Julius Erving. That was Dr. J.
Yeah,
still.
Yeah. That was me, but there's that was the CTE league is what I like to call it. No, I mean, I just think that was I think Jokic did what he had to do. I probably would have done the exact same thing, man. I know I'm a hot-headed guy as it is, but I mean, you don't win the MVP of the league, and you're one of the best players, arguably a top 5 player in this league, and you allow yourself to get treated like that.
No. Yeah, because that wasn't an NBA play. That wasn't a basketball play that Keith made.
Especially from a dude that's not even your peer.
Right.
That's not even your peer. That dude, Morris is not even nearly on the level that Jokic is. This is the MVP of the league here, man. So, and that's any sport. I would expect any of his teammates to defend him. That's just, it's a pride issue, and like you said, this is like you can't allow that to happen to yourself and then move on like nothing happened. You got to remind everybody who you are. You're not going to allow that. And moving forward, I expect that to stop. I mean, but I still do like guys like the Lagoons of the league will still poke the bear and try to see if they can get him to retaliate. So he's got to channel some of that. He's let it be known to this point that he's not going to take that, but at the same time, he can't react like that every time. Because he's so valuable to his
especially
team.
in like the playoffs,
right?
Because you know that they won't fuck around with that. And if you miss a
saw
playoff
the Suns game when they were getting ready to be,
Devin Booker saw his life flash before his eyes.
Yeah. So I think Jokic is letting it be known. I think his brothers are doing a good job of letting it be known that they're not going to take that shit. Yeah. So I think moving forward, he'll probably tamper that a little bit. And I think the coaches and everybody would let him know that you need to calm down. You're very valuable to this team. You can't.
Yeah, he admitted that in his presser.
You can't be Rasheed Wallace every night. So. Yeah, I was fine with how it went down, man. That's man-to-man shit. You don't do that. He retaliated, I think, fairly. I think it is what it is. You wash your hands.
There should be a rule. You don't fuck with a man that goes out in his boxers in the snow to go get his paper. That's the kind of guy Jokic.
Serbs are just different.
They're just a different breed. You don't fuck with them, man.
All right, next question. 2 more questions. Why is tampering such a big issue in the NBA? We got there's reports coming out that the Bulls tampered with Lonzo Ball and the Heat with
Kyle Lowry, yeah.
Kyle Lowry. So why is that such a big? Because we hear it every single season.
Stupid, man.
So
this is the problem. I'm going to defend the NBA a little bit just because of the fact that tampering is something that can and will affect outcomes of seasons. And you want to have some sort of set standard. The problem is that in today's NBA with social media and everyone being friends from AAU on, it's really impossible to police it.
Right.
Because a guy can DM Lonzo Ball or text him or FaceTime, hey, bro, come play in Chicago. It's a buddy of mine that, we've been friends for 11 years.
I mean,
dude, come play.
Kevin Durant was a free agent?
Yeah. I guess the real question is, do we need to revise what the definition of tampering is? Because in today's NBA, it's so easy to tamper. And not just the NBA, NFL, MLB, soccer, everything. It's so easy to do it that you almost don't know you're doing it. Like back when Andy Reid took over in Kansas City, he talked to Jeremy Maclin, and the Chiefs got in trouble for that. But it was just because they had a relationship of their previous tenure in Philly that Andy Reid and Jeremy Maclin talked. It wasn't like they were trying to do something under the table or sneaky or facetious. It was just them talking. So I think that there needs to be more of a revitalization of what exactly tampering is, because as we know, in society, as things change and adapt, you have to change and adapt with it, because that's just the evolution of the world. And so I want to defend the NBA, but I almost can't, because it's, what do you really consider tampering? Are you going to be consistent with how you hit each and every tampering situation?
I think I completely, I just don't, I think that's an archaic rule. I think it's an archaic rule that just needs to go away. Tampering is just a part of the game. In all sports, I think at the end, the athlete is going to make the decision where he wants to go, regardless. If people want to, it's like sales. It's like sales to me. All these teams are giving their sales pitch. Remember when LeBron was a free agent? There's all these billboards in every city trying to recruit LeBron.
Yeah.
I love that part of sports. I think they just need to lean into it and just let it happen. The athlete is going to choose regardless. If one team sways them one way or the other, and they choose and it fails, so be it. I think that decision, they're a free agent for a reason. You know what I mean? If you're trying to like a player that's under contract or something, you're trying to like find a way for him to get out of his contract. To come
That's
play
what
for you.
tampering is, though. You can do that with free agents.
Well, okay.
You know, you don't tamper with free agents. Free agents you can sell the fuck out of them.
I guess what I'm saying is like between players to player, I feel like if they're boys and they're on different teams and they want to text each other about joining up, and I just don't. I think that's an archaic mindset to like frown upon that. I think that's such a normal thing, man. I just think that's, like if we were both athletes and we were in a team, like we wanted to play together, we're brothers or something, like we're going to talk to each other about that. You know what I mean? So I just don't. If the front offices are like trying to collude things, that's one thing. But like player to player, peer to peer, I don't really see an issue with tampering. I feel like that's just something that's going to have to adapt and lean into the times that we live in with social media and just the ability to communicate freely now.
All right, last question. Has to do with what happened with I believe it was this Monday, with the whole taunting in the NFL with Cassius Marsh.
Cassius Marsh.
The flag that he got and the reaction from the ref while he was running to his sideline. So I'm gonna get your reactions to that, and then obviously I think yesterday it was handed down that he was fined like $5,000. I think.
Yeah. So the according to Tom Pelissaro this morning, the NFL not only stands behind Monday night's controversial taunting call against Bears linebacker Cassius Marsh, the league informed Marsh on Friday that he's being fined $5,972 for unsportsmanlike conduct per sources. The NFL better be counting their lucky stars here, man, that they have such a great product, because they couldn't be worse at officiating things on and off the field. This is a real problem the NFL has. And it's incredible that a league that makes as much money as the NFL does still does not have full-time officials. They still don't have full-time officials. The guys that are training year-round to be the best at what they can be. You know what they do have? Players and coaches that practice year-round to be the best at what they do. And you know what? Coincidentally, it's the best product in this country as far as sports are concerned. It's the king. And yet, they still can't get this shit right. If you watch that play with one working eyeball, you would have laughed at what the NFL did and how they handled that. You would have laughed at how Tony Correnti, the head umpire of that team, that officiating team, handled that situation. He literally bumped Cassius Marsh. He initiated that contact. If it had been Cassius Marsh that did that to Tony Correnti, he would be missing games. He'd be suspended. And Tony Correnti is sitting here, probably still posed like this with the flag stance, without any fines or any suspensions on his behalf. He's the one that caused this shit. Because Cassius Marsh did a little jump kick thing like Jet Li after making the biggest play of his career. Yeah. That was the big. No one knew who Cassius Marsh was before that play. He'd been bouncing around team to team. He got cut by the Steelers, I believe, last season. And then on third down, makes a crucial drive-stopping play to potentially give the Bears the lead on the next drive. Instead, it's a 15-yard penalty. And it extends the Steelers' drive on that because he looks and postures towards the Steelers' line or sidelines. What the fuck are we doing here? It'd been one thing if Cassius Marsh knocked Ben Roethlisberger on his ass like he did, and then he ran to the sidelines and pointed at Mike Tomlin or somebody. That's taunting. But when he's literally looking at the sideline and starts running back, and Tony Correnti backs that shit up on him, how in the world am I supposed to sit here and support what the NFL is doing with this and how they're handling it? It's an absolute travesty what we're doing, because it isn't just that situation. They're now setting a precedent of players now having to be robotic. And that is not what this league is. And quite frankly, that's not what makes this game great. It's just the great plays. It's the passion of the players that make this great. And when you're taking that away, you're taking away a large portion of what makes us continue to come out there and consume this product. Yeah. The NFL is really fucking themselves on this, man. I hate that they're doing it.
Yeah, my favorite element, and I think the most integral, especially amongst fans, especially amongst players, I should say, the greatest element to sports in general, but specifically football, is passion, right? And when a defensive player makes a sack or a great touchdown is caught or a thrown or whatever the play is, a significant play or just an every down play, whatever it may be, these players have passion. This is their life. They've worked their whole life to do this game and be great at this game and be a 1%er of players that actually make the pros. Dedicated their whole life and energy and physique and gone through the pain and everything, the muck and the blood, sweat, the tears, everything to be here.
and they can't show their passion on the field when they make a play, let alone stare at the opposing sideline. And we want to flag these guys for taunting. Taunting is a part, I've said it before, taunting is a part of football. Taunting is a part of sports. The bat flips, the stare downs after you dunk on somebody, you posterize somebody. It is a part of sports. This league and this rule is trying to strip the passion from these players. And it's embarrassing. They tried it once before with no celebrations. Remember the no celebrations? Now we got rid of that rule, and now we have a camera dedicated to celebrations in the end zone. Whether it's defensively and they all go take the group picture, or it's a nice one-handed catch in the back of the corner of the end zone, and they'll let the players dance and do whatever, like Travis Kelce doing his little dance, whoever it is. That's a part of the game. They took that away because they acknowledged that they were wrong about taking celebrations, and it became the no fun league. And they're trying it again. I 100% believe this rule's not going to last. I think this is an experiment. I don't think it's going to last because I think they're recognizing that, especially after this debacle, is absolutely embarrassing to see that on live television. And a game that could have went either way, and that might have been the deciding factor of the game because they had them stopped. And that penalty, like you said, extended the drive, and the Bears were rolling offensively. So that was an embarrassment. I was embarrassed just as a fan of the NFL to see that take place. They robbed the Bears of a W, quite frankly, in my mind.
Yeah.
That rule is a disgrace to the passion these players go through to be able to let, 1 day a week, let out that passion they work all week for. They've worked their whole lives for. To not celebrate something that they do great on the field that they've worked their whole lives for. It's absolutely, it's embarrassing and it's disrespectful to those players to not allow them to let the other team know that they just did something, to them. Like, that's a part of the game, man. This is a man's game. That's a part of it. You're supposed to be able to talk shit, and let alone staring at someone, staring at a bench. That's up to the other team to respond to that. Let them handle that as men on the field. Don't take away that element of the game. I hate it.
And then you have Mike Tomlin coming out saying he agrees with the taunting rule because it cleans up the game.
Right, that's bullshit. He knows that's bullshit, dude. He's pandering to that. I don't like that. And I love him, but that's bullshit.
That's it for me.
Yeah.
Good shit, man. I appreciate that, Eddie. I think I stayed pretty fair and balanced on that one. I didn't get really triggered on that one. That's kind of impressive. We have, I believe, the Monday Mailbag is next, if I'm not mistaken. I think the last couple weeks we've been lacking from the Monday Mailbag, but I think it has resurrected just in time for some November sports topics and conversation. Eddie, what is in the Monday Mailbag this week?
All right, man. First question comes from Shaggy Shane. His question is, when Lucas Niang went down at right tackle on the opening drive, so did the Chiefs' offense. In complete totality, the Chiefs only had one more scoring drive the rest of the game, and that was for 3 points because the next scoring drive, KC benefited from a muff punt. With Lucas Niang and Rammers injured, do you see KC scouring the waiver wire for a right tackle?
No, I do not. The reason why is because I don't believe that Lucas Niang in particular, his injuries are going to be long drawn out injury. It's a rib soreness. I think he has rib soreness, something like that. It's nothing significant. I even talked to somebody that is very much in the know, and they said this is maybe another week at most for Lucas Niang. It's really unfortunate he ain't playing. But what I will say about this, and I was actually going to use this in the Chiefs Raiders breakdown, I probably end up repeating myself, is that I actually think there might be a little bit of a blessing in disguise with this happening. And I know that sounds nuts because the Chiefs have a backup guard now at right tackle and Andrew Wiley playing.
How long, baby?
Yeah, no. The blessing in disguise is this. Yeah. We remember last season how it went and how Patrick Mahomes had a revolving door at offensive line. Not just
fight that pressure from the right
not
side.
just at right tackle. I mean, Mitchell Schwartz went down after week 5. We never saw him again. And the Chiefs had nothing but chaos at offensive line. And offensive line now, with this being more shirt up on the left side all the way down, I think has almost spoiled Patrick Mahomes a little bit. Now that he almost has to be a little bit more improv a little bit more. Maybe that's a blessing for him because he embraces that with 38 touchdowns, only 6 interceptions last season. Maybe that's going to, because if we notice, Andrew Wiley played last week against the Packers, and you saw Patrick Mahomes do what? Roll out to the right side, make that throw. So I'm almost curious that we might see a little bit more of a creative Patrick Mahomes with the third string right tackle playing in a back-to-back week. I don't know. I'm just saying, guys.
I am going to kind of caution to the other side of that argument. I am actually worried about that a little bit because of how Patrick's been playing. Patrick hasn't been playing great at all. He's actually been playing pretty bad. So if this makes the situation even worse, that is worrisome to me, man. And I want the most protection for Pat. I understand the idea and the strategic thought behind that. That could maybe snap Pat out of something and
those instincts of him, those, just to come out and just kind of just wing it and do his thing and play some backyard football. That sounds fun in theory, but I got to see Pat play some good football, man, to have confidence in him right now, let alone see confidence in him having in himself. So I'm worried about it. I want good offensive line play. The offensive line has been good, so having Niang down does suck, but I don't think it's going to be more of a multiple week thing leading into this, but I think Kyle Long is being activated too. I'm not saying he's going to play, but he was brought here for a reason. He's that veteran presence. He's probably going to get some reps in this week. I've always liked Kyle Long, so he's a Pro Bowl, caliber guy. He's older, but sometimes those older linemen know exactly what to do, and they have that nasty toughness to them, that old man strength. So I can see him coming in, playing a slight role there too. So we invested heavily into this offensive line and to play good, and they've been playing good. And I think Niang has been one of the more inconsistent, but he's still young. I do believe in his size and his strength and his abilities. So I just hope he gets back as soon as possible and get this offensive line back to full strength. But yeah, I am kind of worried about having a weaker right side at this moment. Yes, I am.
All right, next question comes from Shaggy Shane again. Ooh, 2 from Shaggy.
I like it. It's a good week.
Well, crap. 4 days later, and Friday is here, and the Chiefs didn't address putting anyone else at right tackle other than Andrew Wiley. Now that my head is spinning over Wiley starting at right tackle this Sunday night, could I get a 55-second imitation from Lance Twitwell of John Gruden telling the world about his being forced to retire as NFL head coach from Roger Goodell, please? It would really cheer me up.
What was the imitation question request again? The last part?
John Gruden. He said John Gruden. He said, can I get a 55-second imitation from Lance of John Gruden telling the world about him being forced to retire as NFL head coach from Roger Goodell?
I tell you what, man. I'm really sick and tired of the NFL treating me the way that they do. I went from Monday Night Football to now no football. And this has been a very depressing time in my life, and I kid you not, man. God damn it. I think I'm gonna join the CFL. Roger Goodell can't touch me there. He's fucked.
Like a hot cheerleader.
Because I'm going to go Bill Belichick on the CFL's ass. Just win, baby.
Let's go.
God damn it.
God damn it. I tell you what.
I tell you what, man.
All right, last question comes from Billy Hodge. Ooh, Billy.
Eddie's like, "Oh, Billy."
Got the Hodge twins over
Eddie got a little excited there, right? Like, ding, ding, Turk done. You know what I mean?
He hasn't said anything bad about me lately.
Hodgepodge.
Yeah, have you guys reconciled?
Not yet.
A little reconciliation going on between Eddie and Bill?
He
Old
hasn't
Bill
called
Hodge?
yet. He hasn't called yet.
He hasn't called yet. Billy, could you call Eddie, please? Just at least send a DM.
When CH comes back, will they start using him in the passing game more? Seems like Darren Williams is a better power runner.
I would hope so. I mean, that's the hope here, Billy. I mean, I think we've kind of already specified on that a little bit today, and I think that we all kind of echo the sentiments of that concern, because it doesn't really make sense for the Chiefs to take a running back in the first round if they're not going to utilize him like a first round back. And that's the thing is we can't. Again, I don't want to repeat myself here, guys, but I think we all could agree that although Clyde Edwards-Helaire hasn't become like the second coming of Maurice Jones-Drew, he's been effective. He's been productive. I've shown you guys the numbers. The stats show this and back this up, that the Chiefs' offense is at its best when Clyde is utilized. So it doesn't really make sense to me what Andy does or doesn't do with him. I don't really understand why you spend that type of capital, that kind of draft capital, on a guy you're not using at a higher level. I get the Chiefs have other weapons like Travis Kelce, Tyreek Hill, and other guys you trust. But at the end of the day, we talk about how 2018's offense was unstoppable when you were utilizing Kareem Hunt in both the pass and run game. Why not use Clyde in that when we know his biggest strength is catching the ball out of backfield? I'm hoping the Chiefs will start to utilize that. He's looking promising in practice. Andy was saying it's a stretch. He'll play in this game against the Las Vegas Raiders. But I would imagine against the Cowboys, he's going to make a real push, and that's a game you would absolutely need Clyde, because that's an offense that can rack up points against you. So it's not, Billy, I'm with you, man, 100%. I can't speak to what Andy Reid's going to do, but, man, I'm pulling hard that they will finally start utilizing him like a first-round pick.
Yeah, this is beating a dead horse for me, man. I haven't liked the pick, and I won't like the pick until we utilize his strengths. He's a specialist at something. He's a specialist at receiving the ball and being good with the ball in his hands downfield and in the red zone specifically, if you go watch his LSU tape. It was just him and Burrow had that connection, and it's not hard to do. It's easy to design passing plays for running backs. It's not hard to do, especially when that's what they do best. It's really, really frustrating that we haven't utilized them to that, and that's the most ironic part behind it all is that's been Andy Reid's MO, is finding ways to get the running backs involved in the passing game. We saw it with no one even knew Kareem Hunt was a good pass catcher, and then Andy Reid brought that out of him, and he was elite at it. Clyde's already an elite pass catcher. That's his whole resume. He's never been a great short yardage running back. I mean, we do have Darrell, and I agree with him. Darrell is the better bruiser back. He's better at the short yardage stuff. If we need a 3rd and 1 punched in, Darrell's that guy. Clyde's the guy on a first down. You can have a wheel route thrown to him, and he can take it to the house. He's that good. And we just haven't used him that way. And it's really, really weird and frustrating. And like I said, it's beating a dead horse for me because as soon as we drafted him, that's been what I've wanted. And we've never really used him that way. I hope so. I hope his absence has maybe shown Andy Reid that we need that in the offense more. But I'm not counting on it, to be honest. I just haven't seen it from this offense. It's like we cut those plays out of the book, and I hope Andy Reid utilizes them more moving forward for the rest of the season. But I'm not counting on it, to be honest with you.
That's it.
All right, that's a good Monday mailbag. We are still waiting for our guy, your boy Q 254 on Twitter. He does a lot of work. He does a ton of work. I mean, I saw when I first asked him to come on the show, I was surprised by how much work this guy does. He's one of those multiverse dudes that is basically anywhere and everywhere in Las Vegas sports. He does Las Vegas Sports Network, R&R 920 AM, ESPN Las Vegas, Fox Sports LV, 1230 The Game. This dude's hosting Locked On Bets. This is why we had him on the show, because this guy knows everything and anything about the Raiders that we need to know, current up-to-date statuses on this franchise moving forward and what this matchup's going to be about. And since we're going to be waiting on him just for a little bit longer, I figure, you know what, guys, let's go ahead and get right into our Chiefs-Raiders preview, because I know this is what you guys have been waiting on. I know this is what you guys have been excited about. I've been excited about the first Chiefs-Raiders game of the season. And I actually want to start right here because Patrick Mahomes, we know that it's going to come down to how well he plays in this game, because this is a game where the Chiefs are going to need Patrick Mahomes to play well. Even if the Chiefs defense brings it, we need something from Patrick, a lot more than what he did against the Packers, and I'm expecting that. Because Patrick Mahomes has dominated the Raiders in his career. He's 5-1 against the Raiders in his career, but it's not just the win-loss record difference that Patrick Mahomes has dominated the Raiders in. It's also the fact that he's thrown over 314 yards per game, has 17 total touchdowns, only 3 interceptions with a 106 quarterback rating, which is some of the better numbers against any team he's had in his career. So, given the volume of games and given the experience he now has against the Raiders, I feel very confident that Patrick's going to play well in this game, knowing that all his offensive line outside of right tackle is healthy, his weapons are healthy, they're ready to go. And again, I think that throw against the Packers at the end of the game could really pay dividends for Patrick Mahomes' confidence moving into this big matchup on Sunday Night Football. But there is a caveat here that we have to address when it comes to the Raiders' defense. This is not the same Raiders defense that we've faced over the last couple of seasons, in particular at defensive coordinator. Gus Bradley has done an incredible job considering against Patrick Mahomes in his career. If we know, Gus Bradley was the former defensive coordinator for the Chargers. And one thing we know about the Chargers since 2018? They've given Patrick Mahomes some fits. In fact, Gus Bradley's defenses have held Patrick Mahomes to 61 completion percentage, 231 yards per game, 10 touchdowns to 2 interceptions, which is still really good, but has held him under a 100 quarterback rating and completely at 97 quarterback rating, which isn't terrible by any means. But to Patrick Mahomes' normal standards, those are bringing him down almost 100 yards in difference. And in fact, Patrick Mahomes has had multiple games against Gus Bradley's defenses where he's thrown less than 180 yards. He's had several games in his career against Gus Bradley where he's had less than 100 quarterback rating, as you can clearly see. So Gus Bradley has really made Patrick Mahomes work. Now, the interesting thing about Gus Bradley in this matchup is that we've not seen a lot of cover two from the Raiders defense this season. They've been a defense that's played a lot of man defense, a lot of a single high safety, and they've really kept their 4 pass rushers. They haven't been blitzing a lot. So this is a really interesting matchup because although Patrick's not going to see a ton of blitzing in this game, which is what he usually eats on, the fact that he may not see a lot of cover 2 might give the Chiefs defense or Chiefs offense an ability and a capability to throw down with some succession, throw down the field with some succession. We've heard Patrick Mahomes in recent press conferences mentioning that he's not going to stop throwing the ball downfield. And to be honest with you, I'm happy about that because I don't want him to stop doing what he's great at.
That's what we are.
I want him to be great at what he's great at, obviously. So I don't want him to stop. In baseball terms, stop trying to hit the home run, but you need to start working the opposite field every once in a while when they put the shift on, like I mentioned last week.
Yep.
So, and that should be right up Patrick Mahomes' alley, seeing he's a former baseball player himself, so the analogy should stick and be consistent throughout. So that's what I'm looking at the most on the offensive side is how well Patrick Mahomes can combat Gus Bradley, because to Gus Bradley's defense, he also had a better defense talent-wise with the Chargers over the last 3 years than he currently does with the Raiders. But Max Crosby's been unbelievable this season. Been maybe the most underappreciated defensive player in the league this season. Has done an incredible job. I think he's 4th in the league in pressures. 3rd or 4th in the league in pressures this season. That's impressive. Ngakoue was an incredible acquisition for the Raiders defense front 7. And the only issue I see for the Raiders on the defensive side is their secondary. Because Damon Arnett was already bad. He was not a good first-round pick. But now you don't have him at all. That only opens up even more of a gaping hole for the Raiders on the defensive side. So I'm really excited to see what Patrick does against a Gus Bradley-led defense again, where he has struggled. I think he can make that right. On the defensive side of things for this, on the Chiefs defense, I think that it's very consistent with what we've been saying leading up to this very segment. This is now the time for the Chiefs to prove what they are on defense. These last 2 weeks, holding their opponents to 12 points a game, awesome. We appreciate that. I love seeing it. It's really been the biggest reason why the Chiefs are 2-0 over the last 2 weeks. You win against bad quarterbacks. You win against young rookie quarterbacks. You better do that. Now you're going up against Derek Carr, who is playing at his best that he's ever played in his career. This is the best Derek Carr we've ever seen. Yep. Darren Waller is a top 3 at worst tight end in the NFL today. This offensive line for the Las Vegas Raiders is playing better than I expected them to.
Especially in the run blocking, for sure.
Especially in the run blocking. Yeah. Now, Josh Jacobs hasn't had a great season. He's been banged up a lot, too. Mm-hmm. But this Raiders offense has surprised a lot of people, myself included. And despite the fact they've lost John Gruden, despite the fact that they've lost Henry Ruggs, you've seen this team play good football. Now, I do believe the Chiefs are catching the Raiders at the perfect time. I mean, literally the perfect time. Because not only the Chiefs playing theoretically better football, the Raiders are playing at their worst right now of the season. So they've lost 2 of their last 3 games. 2 of those 2 losses are against teams that are not making the playoffs more than likely, especially with the Bears or especially with the Giants. And now that their confidence is at an all-time low with all these moving parts within the organization, and the Chiefs are starting to find themselves, I could see this being a game where the Chiefs win convincingly. Am I picking that? I'll get to that in a little bit. But this is a game where the Chiefs, in my opinion, are the more confident bunch. And that's one of the first times we've been able to say that all season. In fact, it's probably the first time we've seen the Chiefs come in as the more confident bunch since week 2 when they went into Baltimore. I think the Chiefs are the more confident team going into Baltimore, even though Baltimore, they were playing the wire drops and they're playing all that Omar stuff and Lamar was feeling good about himself. I think this is that game, guys. And I know we talk about this each and every week. This is the get-right game. No, this isn't a get-right game for me. This is building upon what's right game for the Chiefs. This is, you've now been right for 2 weeks defensively. Build on that. And then when Patrick Mahomes, Mr. Finally, that guy, if that really is what he is, and he came back after that final throw against the Packers last week, we need to see that build. So the Chiefs need to stack upon what they've been doing for the last 2 weeks in this Raiders game and go in there and get a convincing win and prove to us that they are really worthy to not only make the playoffs, but to win this division, because those are both still very much in play.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of narratives that can be swayed one way or the other, in this game. This is a big pivotal moment for both teams, because whoever wins this game, is very much could be a deciding factor of which one of these teams make the playoffs, how this division shakes out. With Denver coming off a big win against the Broncos, what are they going to do moving forward? There's a lot of things in flux in this division. So as far as offensively for the Chiefs, I'm still worried, man. Like I said, I wasn't impressed with the performance against the Packers. Granted, we're not going against as good of a defense, but I do think Patrick could get right this game. I really do that. I do believe that is a possibility. That's not a homer take at all, because there's no reason to be a homer right now because his offense has been bad. So this is not me just trying to
try to sway people's ideas of what they think this game's going to be. Just give positive vibes. It's not that. This is me just being a real fan of the game and understanding how football works. We just saw the Cowboys go in there completely lay an egg in Denver. We just saw the Bills, maybe arguably one of the best teams, outright the best team people were assuming were the best team in the AFC, just go be absolutely abysmal against the Jags. This games like that, this football's a weird sport, man. I think this could be a game where the Chiefs' offense has been bad for 4 or 5 straight weeks. And this could be one of those games where we just get up and just absolutely just go off for 40 plus. That could definitely happen. I definitely think that's a possibility. I don't think that's what's going to happen though. Yeah. I do think this is one of those games where regardless of how good our offenses have been, most of these games against the Raiders have been fairly tight. And this may be one of the better Raiders teams as far as just consistency week in, week out. They haven't really had any games where they're just outright just bad. Yeah. They've been pretty consistent. Granted, that Giants game, Derek Carr might have had his worst game of the year so far. Threw a couple picks, ended the game on a pick pretty much. This is a chance for this Chiefs team to ride not only the failures of the Raiders right now, but also ride the consecutive wins that we have right now. Regardless, they haven't been pretty, but ride that wave and kind of kick the Raiders while they're down. We got to be ruthless heading into this week because we know we're going to get the best out of the Raiders. The Raiders are going to bring their best because they've lost a couple, and now they're heading into Chiefs week, which is, for Raiders fans I know, for Chiefs fans I know, this is the biggest get-up game every year. Whether it's in Arrowhead, whether, these 2 games out of the year are the ones we circle on our calendar, regardless how good or bad the other team is. So I think this is a chance for this offense to get up and get some points going because it all starts with our offensive line. Because like you said, like you alluded to, that defense of the Raiders, that Max Crosby and Ngakoue, those guys have been getting after quarterbacks. They've been getting there with 4 consistently for the most part. And I think if we can give Pat some clean pockets and let him pick apart that secondary, it's not a good secondary. It's just not a lot of talent, especially with Arnett's exit. That only hurts them even that much more. And they've been banged up, and they've had guys rotating in and out that haven't had a lot of experience. So I think if we give Pat some time to just dissect them, it's game over, in my mind. No. We're coming off a game where we didn't have any turnovers. That's good. We can build upon that, especially. Not turning the ball over is huge. We can't turn the ball over against this team. And offensively. So offensively for the Chiefs, I think this is definitely a position where we could get right. I'm not expecting us to just go blow them out because we just, quite frankly, don't do that, unfortunately. We have the pieces to do that. We just don't ever do it. I just do think this is a game where Kelsey, Tyreek, it's just a gritty game. We go out there and they just do what they got to do to get this W. I think that's just one of those games.
I will add to what you just said about the offense getting right in this game or doing what they normally should do. And the reason why I feel a little bit more confident about that and comfortable with that, not just because the Chiefs usually have done very well offensively against the Raiders, even considering the addition of Gus Bradley, but it's also the fact that there is math to what Andy Reid did in that final drive against the Packers, very similar to what he did against the Browns in the divisional round last season, where you could have easily just gone very conservative and just try to run as much clock out and then give them the ball and hope that your defense can do enough. No, Andy Reid decided to show his nuts and went for the win. And he said, no, my quarterback is going to dictate how this game goes. Yeah. And that's what I asked in the Ravens game, where I love that Clyde was being utilized, but in that moment, I want Patrick Mahomes to determine how this game ends. And that's what he did against the Packers. He could have easily ran a methodical little RPO play, run up the gut for 2 yards, let the clock run down for 40 more seconds, and then the Packers have 30 seconds left on the clock, and then more than likely they're going to win the game. Yeah. But you're not giving them the ball back. And I love that what Andy Reid did, because what that did with Chad Henne in the Browns game, the Chiefs went out there the next week against the Bills and kicked their shit in and beat that team 38-24. Yeah. So I'm not saying that's what's going to happen in this Raiders game. What I'm saying, though, is you clearly saw what that did to the mentality and the psyche of the Chiefs as a whole, as a collective, when Andy Reid said, you know what? No, I'm letting my $500 million quarterback go out there and win us a fucking game. Yes. And now, if I can do that with my backup, I'm doing that with my starting quarterback, and now we're going to go in there and go into Las Vegas and beat the Raiders the way we want to, because we control the tempo. We control how these games end because we're the better team. Yeah. So I will add that. I loved what Andy Reid did. I'll give him praise for that.
And I will say, like, my confidence for the offense is moderate right now. I'm kind of in between because I got to see it, man.
Yes.
2 straight weeks we've only won by a score, and haven't looked good offensively. We just haven't looked like what we know to be. But that's why I'm moderate going in. I'm kind of like in the in-between, the purgatory there. But I do think there is a inkling of a chance that we go out there and just we find ourselves again.
You can't act like for the first 5 weeks Patrick didn't have 14 passing touchdowns.
In this game
he was going off.
In this game specifically, because I think we all three can agree that this is a must-win game. This is
100%.
absolutely. I mean, I know there's not a lot of must-win games in the middle of the season because it
Like
doesn't,
we said, this is a different season.
But this game can swing the outcome of this division, let alone the AFC. But we're right in the race for the AFC top spot if we win this game, let alone the division. So there's so much.
Titans lose this week. Chiefs win. We're 1 game from the 1 seed.
The Titans could lose.
The Chiefs are 1 game from the 1 seed.
Granted, they're facing the Saints, I think, this week, right? Against Alvin
in Tennessee, though. In Tennessee,
no Alvin Kamara. That's a big loss. But football's weird.
How long can the Titans hold off without Derrick Henry? That's the question you have to ask too.
And then I'll get to the Chiefs defense. The Chiefs defense, I'm excited to watch this one, man. I'm excited to watch because I just think there's something about getting after Derek Carr that this defense likes. We've seen it in the past. We like getting in his head, especially in Arrowhead. We've seen the cold weather. We love feasting on Derek Carr. It's just kind of something we like. I will say, and I've always liked Derek Carr as the quarterback. I think he's always had a good, consistent way about him. He's very accurate. And he's playing good football right now. He has been playing good football all year for the most part. He's kind of down right now. Had a rough game last week. I know he wants to get out of that. He very much badly wants to get out of that. And this Chiefs defense is building on some confidence, and we want to continue that. It's really going to be about who can outdo who. And I think this defense is going to have a good game. I really do. And I think we really and that all starts with stopping the run because Derek Carr, we all know. Derek Carr, if he doesn't have a good running game going, if he doesn't have the running backs, finding success, he can't get that play action going because Derek Carr feasts on play action. He's got good deep. He had a good deep threat in Henry Ruggs. He doesn't have that anymore. But they did sign Deshaun Jackson. Say what you want about him. He's an older guy, still a speedster, still a guy that can go catch a 75-yard touchdown at any moment. He's got Edwards. He's got a reliable tight end, and he's got what's his name? White boy. What's the white boy?
Renfro.
Yeah, Renfro.
Yeah.
Hunter Renfro, who's been a solid receiver all year, very consistent. So he's more of a slot guy that can more of a possession receiver, but. If we stop that running game, we stop Jacobs from getting what he wants to get and slow down and not allow them to get comfortable to where they can just do play action plays over and over again. And that's where Derek Carr, because he's got a great deep ball. He's good at dropping in the bucket, and that's what scares me the most because our corners, if we get caught deep, if we play, a single high safety or we play man-to-man at one point, we got Sorensen out there at any moment, there's a chance that they can beat us over the top. If they do that play action. Because Jacobs is a guy you got to worry about, and that O-line's good at run blocking. So if we can stuff the run, and I expect us to, I think that our linebackers are going to get up for this. I think we're going to stuff the run. And if we can eliminate the play action, the effectiveness of the play action, at least a little bit, that's going to make Derek Carr uncomfortable. Because Derek Carr's not that guy that's going to run out of the pocket and make all these crazy plays downfield. This is not that guy, really. Yeah. He's very comfortable in the pocket. He's very good at throwing from the pocket. So I think we can stuff the run, slow down the pace of that offense, eliminate the majority of the play action plays because that's where Derek Carr thrives. We win this game, and I think we win this game outright if we stop them. Because I think this Chiefs team will put up points. This is a good game. We've had almost single digit games. Almost it feels like we've won scores, 2 scores. That's just ridiculous for this offense. I think this is definitely a get right game for the team entirely, and that defense I think will build upon that confidence, the confidence that they're building upon right now. So.
I'm gonna start with the offense real quick. I'm with Trevor. I'm not too confident on this offense because they haven't showed me anything in the past 2 weeks. Yes, the last play was beautiful. It was executed well, but that does not tell me anything. It doesn't tell me that Patrick's back. It doesn't tell me that Tyreek is back or whatever. It doesn't tell me anything. It's just a good play at a good time. Hopefully this does help them to become a better offense, but I don't think that was the breaking point. I have to see it before I actually say, hey, the offense is doing its thing. That's kind of what I did with the defense. At first, it started worse, bad, and it started slowly changing, slowly getting better. The competition wasn't as good, but they were putting in the work, and you can tell. So this offense has to kind of show me and prove me wrong. Otherwise, I'm not gonna be too confident on that offense. I think the Chiefs O-line has to worry about Max Crosby. He's had a tremendous season so far. That's gonna be the player to watch. He's gonna put in that pressure on I think Patrick Mahomes a lot. So that's going to be something the Chiefs have to work on and see if this O-line can hold Max Crosby just a little bit long enough so Patrick Mahomes can get out of the pocket and stuff like that. and make those plays. So we'll see. And then obviously what the Chiefs have to do is take advantage of the secondary. Obviously the Raiders don't have a great secondary. They are struggling. They just lost Arnett. This team is mentally beaten right now with the Henry Ruggs situation, and then David Arnett. And I can't remember his first name, but Arnett's situation. Damon Arnett's situation. So this team could be dealing with some mental issues due to those things, the consequences that those brought. So this could be a blessing for the Chiefs. So hopefully Tyreek can get open. Travis Kelce, hopefully he has a good game. Hopefully he's not as banged up as he's been the past couple weeks. Hopefully we see a lot more Josh Gordon. I think this is going to be a game where Josh Gordon's going to be crucial. I think Josh Gordon is going to help open up those spaces for Tyreek, for Travis Kelce. Because if they don't play that cover two that every team is playing the Chiefs, I think the Chiefs have a better chance in opening those spaces for Tyreek and Travis Kelce with Josh Gordon. So there's that. And then defensive wise, I hope we can put the pressure on Derek Carr. Derek Carr's a good quarterback. He's had a great season. This O-line is. We also made fun of this O-line at the beginning of the season, but they've proven that this is a real good O-line, and hopefully we can send blitz packages. Hopefully Spagnuolo doesn't change away from those pressuring the quarterback, trying to get to the quarterback. Obviously, you got to get to Derek Carr early. That has to be something you got to do. That has to be. If I'm the Chiefs, if I'm Spagnuolo, the first defensive play, I'm going blitz. Yeah. I'm gonna put the pressure on Derek Carr.
Safety blitz or something like that. Yeah.
I'm going blitz on the first play because I wanna tell Derek Carr, hey, we're not gonna take you lightly. Yeah, you've been having a good season, but we're here to fucking cause havoc.
And I think that's what happened. I think that's what happened last season in Week 5. Is I really do believe, because it echoed in our show that week leading up to when we were talking with Raider Cody on that episode about how we felt the Chiefs were just going to walk in there and just pulverize this Raiders team because they've owned them for so long. And then Derek Carr goes out there and plays a game like we've never seen him play, where he's chucking the ball deep. And that's actually where my keys to this game are. Okay, look. I think Henry Ruggs being gone is going to play a bigger role than I think we realize.
Yeah, because the deep threat is no longer there.
In that first game last season in Week 5, Henry Ruggs only caught 2 passes, but it went for over 118 yards and 2 touchdowns. So he was scorching the Chiefs secondary, and not having him there at all, I still think Darren Waller's going to do his thing. He's probably going to get 8-9 catches for $116 and maybe a touchdown. I still think Hunter Renfrow. He's actually played a really good season, surprisingly better than a lot of people think. I think he's in the top 25, 26 right now receiving yards.
It kind of reminds me like what Randall Cobb was to Aaron Rodgers
for a
while.
That's a similar He's kind of an X factor, kind of a frustrating guy on 3rd and 8 where he gets 11 yards. Like, fuck, this
he's
guy.
Very good in the red zone.
Where's this guy coming from kind of guy, yes.
Yeah.
He's a little banged up. I know he has like a leg injury right now that he suffered in the Giants game. He should be fine. He should be fine. But here's the biggest key, guys, of this game and where the Chiefs will win this game if they do right. And Eddie just mentioned it about Max Crosby and the differences between both pass rushes. So last season, in the 2 games that the Chiefs and the Raiders faced, Patrick Mahomes got hit 10 times. Derek Carr only got hit 5. Okay? That is literally twice as many quarterback hits on Patrick Mahomes. Now, in the second game, Patrick Mahomes was unbelievable. In the first game, he was unbelievable. And to be honest with you, Chiefs probably win that game if that horrific holding call on Kelechi Osemele doesn't take place, because Patrick put the ball absolutely on the money about 60 yards into the end zone to Tyreek Hill, which would have probably changed the entire game, and the Chiefs probably win that game. Having said that, the Raiders' defense was getting to Patrick Mahomes both games. Now, why I feel more comfortable, even despite the fact that the Chiefs have Andrew Riley at right tackles, for 2 reasons. One I already mentioned, because Patrick Mahomes loves playing in chaos. As crazy as that sounds and as dumb as that sounds, the hard things come easy to Patrick, and the easy things come hard to Patrick, which is really odd. But honestly, I would prefer that. I would honestly prefer a guy.
With comfort comes turnovers. So.
I'm just saying, like Patrick Mahomes is still clearly getting used to this whole idea of having a clean pocket and being able to do things with less chaos around him. He will learn that. I'm very confident he will. But he's so great in chaos. We know this. And now that now he knows he has to watch, not his blind side, luckily. It's not left tackle, it's right tackle. I think he's welcoming it. I know that sounds nuts because Max Crosby is so good. And you know they're going to line him and Ngakoue on that right side. But I think Patrick wants that. I really do. I think ideally you'd rather have a starting right tackle, but given the scenario, I think he's going to welcome it, and I think Patrick's going to capitalize on it, and I think the Chiefs' offense, if I have any confidence in them left, are going to actually game plan on, hey, let's let them kind of have those little right side blitzes and stuff, because what we'll do is we'll just dump over it, allow the offense to run past them, and they think they got a free shot on Patrick. He dumps it off to Darrell Williams or Derek Gore or Clyde if he ends up playing, and let them Jerick McKinnon go out there and rush for 15 yards or get a 15-yard reception on a little dump off pass.
Maybe Josh Gordon will catch a ball.
Yeah. Wouldn't that just be
that'd be cool?
Wouldn't that be nice Beach Boy style?
That'd be cool.
But also the fact that now it's a revised version of what this matchup is. Because last season, the Chiefs had one of the worst offensive lines in football. Yeah. So it would make sense for the Raiders to be able to go and do what they wanted to do against Patrick Mahomes and get all the pressure they wanted on Patrick Mahomes and getting 5 quarterback hits per game on Patrick Mahomes. So now that this offensive line, Creed Humphrey being an elite safety or center, Trey Smith already a top 10 right tackle in the NFL, right guard in the NFL, Joe Tooney, one of the 2 best guards in football, and then Orlando Brown, who's been much better than people are giving him credit. Even us, to be honest, we're not giving him enough credit here on the Spoken Podcast. Orlando Brown's been awesome this season. It just looks like he's been bad sometimes because of the distrust between him and Patrick Mahomes to this point. But that's going to be taken care of. I don't think the Raiders' front four is going to have the game that we're anticipating. I don't think the offensive line is going to allow them to beat up Patrick Mahomes. I don't think it's going to happen because there's so much more of a solidarity on this offensive line than there was at this time last season when the Chiefs and Raiders faced. So I think the Chiefs actually have the advantage in this game at pass rush. I honestly believe Melvin Ingram is going to be a bigger contributor than we expected. This is why a lot of us wanted him or Justin Houston this offseason, because the dude's got juice. I've listened to Mitch Schwartz this week talk about it, about how he had plenty of juice left. He called that, and you saw the impact he made in that Packers game. Now, the Chiefs are obviously facing a much more skilled and experienced quarterback in this game, but unlike what Nick Mangold wants to say on Good Morning Football, Derek Carr is not a Chief killer. He is not a Chiefs kryptonite. That is absolutely absurd, guys. He has been horrible more times than he's been good against the Chiefs in his career. He's had moments, and he played really well against the Chiefs last season, but there was context that was there last season that is simply not there this season because he had a better offensive line, and he had Henry Ruggs in that game.
Well, we know a track record with Derek Carr. Granted, he is a good quarterback, but if you get to him and you rattle him, he gets shook, especially against the Chiefs because there's a lot of pressure on him to win these games. And we saw when he finally got himself a good win last year. They had, they celebrated like they won the Super Bowl and they did a trip around our stadium. So, that's just, it is what it is. But I think Derek Carr can be rattled, and I think objective number one for me defensively is stopping the run. That way they become one. If you force Derek Carr to become one-dimensional, just throwing the ball, and they don't have a running game, there's no play action. That's the best way to defeat Derek Carr in that Raiders offense in my mind. So I think getting to the quarterback obviously should always be one of the main objectives. But for me, it's stopping Josh Jacobs. Because that kid's a force, man. If he starts getting downfield and he starts getting chunk after chunk, that's when I get a little bit worried about our defense. Because then pressuring the quarterback becomes kind of obsolete because they're just going to run it down our throats. So we got to stop the run. We got to stop the run. We got to put up points. That's the key to victory for me.
And I'm actually glad that you bring up the run game part of this because that's actually where, again, I feel the most confident with this Chiefs defense.
That's what I'm hoping, but that's what makes me nervous because I'm confident heading into this game and I'm waiting for it to fail.
You guys addressed how Derek Carr is at his best when he has a comfortable run game behind him, an efficient run game behind him. If the Chiefs continue to play defense the way they have over the last 3 weeks against the run game, then you're talking about Derek Carr having to throw the ball 40 times in this game. And to be honest with you, I feel much more confident for a Chiefs victory if Derek Carr's throwing the ball 40 times as opposed to 25. Because if Derek Carr only has to throw the ball 25 times in this game, that means the Raiders are doing what they want offensively. Because they love running the ball. They love running the ball in Las Vegas. So if you're forcing him to throw the ball on first and second downs consistently, the Chiefs got a great chance in this game. Because again, I'm with you guys. I am 100% in lockstep with you guys about the Chiefs' offense. They have struggled, and I think that is something that they could potentially struggle with for the duration of the season. I still believe that Patrick Mahomes is the best quarterback in football. I think Andy Reid is arguably the best coach in football. So if I'm going to continue to have that type of confidence in those guys, whether it's dwindling or it's ascending or not, they still are who I believe they are. And I don't want to oversimplify this because we do know one thing and one thing only, that in 17 games this season, the Chiefs are facing teams that view it as their Super Bowl. What team did a victory lap around Arrowhead Stadium last season? Now, John Gruden was there, not now. But we know this Raiders team has literally built this roster to do what? Beat the Chiefs. So now we're looking at this and going, okay, the Chiefs now countered the counter of the Raiders. We know they built their team the way that they did. They're now hobbled without a speedster receiver that has beaten the Chiefs in the past. Now they don't have the great offensive line they had last season. A good one, but not a great one like they had last season. The Chiefs upgraded at pass rush, put Chris Jones back to where he belongs, and the Chiefs extremely upgraded at offensive line. I think the Chiefs are a better team by talent at certain positions than they were last season when it comes to this particular matchup, if that makes sense. I know the Chiefs were a better team last season against the rest of the league, but when it comes to this matchup in particular, I think the Chiefs are more geared and ready to go against the Raiders than they even were last season. What are your thoughts, Eddie?
Talent-wise, on paper it looks like the Chiefs have the upper hand, but obviously you got to bring into consideration the previous weeks that this offense has struggled. It's not like it's just a little bit of a struggle. No, it's something that they've been carrying on since week 2 of this season. It's something that they're really having to work on, and they haven't been able to figure it out. So they're still struggling. So yes, the offensive line is way better than last season, but then you got the Raiders who are also getting to the quarterback in a much better way than they were last year, in my opinion. Max Crosby is a way better player than what he was last season. He's actually putting that pressure on the quarterbacks. So I can see Patrick Mahomes struggling and trying to get that ball off early because of his right side. Yeah, it's not his blind side, but I think he's gonna be a little too concerned, too worried on that right side that he's gonna go towards Orlando Brown's way. Which Orlando Brown, like you said, he's having a good season, but we've also seen him struggle. So we don't know what's gonna happen. What's going to happen there? So, on paper, the Chiefs had the better team, had the better roster. But this season, that roster is not what the paper shows. So, it all depends on what team the Chiefs decide to bring out. Are they going to go in there and try to play deep, get those home run balls every single play? I hope they don't. Is the defense going to step up and put the pressure on the quarterback like they've been doing in the past 3 games? A good quarterback, bad quarterback, are they going to are they going to be consistent? It's all questions right now. I am more confident on the defense than I am on our offense at this moment in time. So,
and looking at something that I don't think a lot of people are addressing either is the fact that I don't think that the Raiders are going to have a home field advantage in this one. From everything I'm hearing, there's going to be up to about 20,000 Chiefs fans at that stadium. So that's the risk you take when you open up shop in a tourist attraction city, especially like Las Vegas, is you take the risk of never really having true home field advantage, especially when you have a Raiders team that has not won anything meaningful in 20 plus years. So they've had 1 playoff appearance since 2002. And now that you've moved to a city where so many people from other parts of the country and the world, quite frankly, are going in and out, I truly believe that the Chiefs are actually going to have a little bit of an upper hand also in the crowd influence. And if we know anything about Derek Carr, he is very much inclined to feed off of what the crowd is giving him too. And this offense as a whole is what they're giving him. And I don't think it's going to be an advantage for the Raiders and Chiefs. And maybe most people don't think that's a big deal. But I do. I think that's something that's going to pay dividends in this game in the favor for the Chiefs because you're going to see a lot of red in that stadium. Do you guys see it that way, or do you guys think that that's not going to really matter in the grand scheme of things? Trevor?
I mean, as far as Chiefs fans traveling?
Yes.
I mean, Chiefs fans travel well at every game. So, I mean, there's always going to be a good amount of Chiefs fans no matter where you go. I mean, I definitely expect Chiefs fans to get up and want to go travel to Vegas. I mean, we saw last year. There was a good amount of Chiefs fans there last year, or last year there wasn't.
The year before.
Yeah, the year before that. So, I mean, there's always going to be a good amount of both fan bases in these kinds of games. I mean, we've been in. I mean, how many times have we gone to Chiefs games at Arrowhead when it's Raiders week and there's a good amount of Raider fans there too? There's always this rivalry is what it is for a reason.
They both travel well. And I think you also got to think Vegas is only a 3-hour drive from LA. Raiders have so many fans in LA, and it is a lot closer than driving to Oakland. I think to Oakland is 8 hours. To Vegas is about 3 hours, 3.5. So you're gonna have a lot of people from LA traveling to Vegas to see this game. So I don't see the Chiefs having an upper hand on the stands. I think the Raiders are still gonna have their fan base. I do see probably 10,000 Chiefs fans out there, but it's gonna be loud for the Raiders. I think it's gonna crowds. Yes, they can play a factor, but I mean, I don't know.
There's probably a good amount of new Raider fans too in the Vegas
because
area,
that's
Nevada.
that's their first team, second professional sport out there.
Right.
You know, first they got hockey. We saw what they did with hockey. They were packing the stadium every single time. Now you got the Raiders in Vegas representing Vegas. Obviously, the crowd's gonna tend to go towards that team, the local team.
Yeah.
But at the same time, since Vegas went so many years without a professional team, you have so many locals supporting different teams.
Yeah.
So I do think that the Raiders are going to have the upper hand on the stands. I do think that because
As
of
they
LA,
should.
because of LA. LA is closed.
Yeah.
So I think it's going to be packed with Raiders fans.
All right, so I'm going to give you guys my two key players of this game and how the Chiefs can win this game and who needs to have a performance to elevate the Chiefs beyond the Las Vegas Raiders in Las Vegas. On the offensive side, man, I need the good version of Patrick Mahomes, the great version of Patrick Mahomes. I need to see a guy that's going to go out there and throw the ball for 300 yards, extend drives, throw multiple touchdowns, go back to what Patrick Mahomes was. Again, I know we look at this season as a whole and say, man, Patrick Mahomes is struggling, but we forget those first 5 weeks, he was playing football better than any other quarterback in the league, outside of maybe Kyler Murray. So he was out there beating up a tough schedule too. I don't like using schedule as an excuse, but when you're still putting up numbers against a tough schedule, you got to give somebody praise, and Patrick Mahomes was absolutely doing that. He has since regressed. He has since struggled. He has since looked human. I believe Patrick Mahomes, the one that we know, the one that we're comfortable with, the one that we call the greatest quarterback in football, is going to emerge. Am I expecting him to go out there and look like his best? No. I think the Raiders are going to play him tough. I think that Gus Bradley is going to have his defense mentally and physically prepared to go out there and make Patrick Mahomes' night tough. But does tough ever stop Patrick Mahomes more times than not? No. I think Patrick Mahomes is going to go out there, and I think he's going to be the difference maker on the offensive side and reestablish himself and reestablish his team as the best in the AFC West and hopefully soon the best team in the AFC. I truly believe this team has that opportunity still, despite what I have said in previous weeks, because I didn't expect the schedule to flip the way that it has since the Aaron Rodgers situation that took place last week. Now, on the defensive side of things, I know this is going to sound a little odd, but I think it's going to be Juan Thornhill that's going to be the one that makes a difference in this game, because now Juan Thornhill is being established as a prohibitive starter. For the last 3 or 4 weeks, he hasn't been. He's been working his way back into more snap counts, and Dan Sorensen's been taking the back seat. Now it's established. Juan Thornhill is the starting the starting strong safety for this team. And Tyrann Mathieu has been able to do what he wants to do, which is read the quarterback's eyes and freelance around the field and make plays the way that he's best known to do. Juan Thornhill, to me, is going to be the guy that makes the key play in this game. I think he's going to be the guy. You saw something in that Giants game against the Raiders last week where they were reading what Derek Carr was doing, to where he had to force balls downfield. And once Derek Carr's doing that, he's floating out because he doesn't have a great arm. He has a good enough arm, but he floats a lot of passes downfield. And you saw the way the Giants secondary was eating those passes alive all game long and ended up being the deciding factor of that close game. I think Juan Thornhill is going to be that guy in this game. I think Juan Thornhill is going to establish himself once again as a reason why, and to justify why the Chiefs traded up for him 2 seasons ago. I think he makes a big key interception in this game. He might even force a fumble in this one, because we saw in that Browns game, which Derek Carr and Baker Mayfield have very similar arm strengths. You saw how great Juan Thornhill was in that game. I think that we're going to see a repeat performance of Juan Thornhill from Week 1 in Week 10 against the Las Vegas Raiders. Trevor, who are your players?
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I like the Patrick Mahomes take. Obviously, that it all starts and ends with him. So we need him to be who we know he can be and who he is. And I think that starts with his number one weapon, Travis Kelce. I think Travis Kelce's got to be he's got to get, this is a get right game for him, because he's feasted on the Raiders more times than he hasn't. And he's always had. I mean, he came up big in that last game when we needed that game, that pretty much game-winning drive where he got that touchdown. He's all, and they just do not have the safety play. They just do not have the linebackers that can keep up with Travis Kelce in coverage. I think this is a game where Travis Kelce absolutely goes off. I'm not expecting a big scoring output from our end, but I think statistically Travis Kelce's going to have one of those games. And it's been a minute since he's really had one. I know he scored last week, but he didn't have a really good game, really. No one really did, but I just think this is one of those games where it's going to, if we want the offense to get right, it starts with Travis Kelce. He's the leader. He's the number one target in this offense. I mean, Tyreek Hill's been the number one target mostly this season, just because out of necessity, because he's been the guy that's really been having somewhat of a connection with Pat lately. So he's been heavily targeted, but I think Travis Kelce is what makes this offense go as far as the weapons are. And I think I think he's gonna find him over the middle a lot. I think he's gonna find him in some dink and dunk positions. I think he's gonna have some little curl routes where he catches, and Travis Kelce does that move where he catches it and he turns the other way and he fakes the defender out. I think we'll see some of that. I think in the red zone things get tight. I think Travis Kelce is gonna be leaned on heavily. I just expecting a big game for him, and I think that's kind of what starts this offense to kind of get its gears going again, and it starts with those two guys. Defensively, I'm going with Frank Clark. This feels like a Frank Clark game to me. It just feels like, because he's been getting his gears going, he's been getting his juice. I know the fans have been down on him lately. We all have. We wanted to see it, and I think we've been seeing Frank Clark get that hunger in him again, and we all know what he's capable of. Granted, has he been doing that? No, he hasn't for a while. But we all know Frank Clark has those games, man. This feels like a strip sack kind of big moment game. Because Frank Clark has had those big moments when we need him the most. He'll show up in the biggest moments, in the playoffs, Super Bowl. I think this is a must-win for us. And I think in that locker room, I think we all know that. And I think Chris Jones going back to the middle, forcing that pressure up the middle and getting Derek Carr out of that pocket. And forcing him out to, whichever side. It could be a Melvin Ingram game, too, where he can feast on that edge, too. But I think Chris Jones is going to make Derek Carr very uncomfortable up in the middle. And I think that's going to allow Frank Clark to make some plays here. I think he's got a very big opportunity to make some plays. I think he can get himself a sack or two and maybe a strip sack in a very timely manner. That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm thinking. And I just think that this just feels like a Frank Clark game to me.
All right, man. My first key player is going to be a little shocking to you guys, but I'm going to go with Harrison Butker. I think this game is going to be a close game to where we're going to need our kicker to be in his A game. I think this is going to be a game where we're gonna try and drive the ball. We're gonna drive the ball, but in the red zone we're gonna struggle like we've been struggling for the past couple of weeks. I do see us
last week.
I do see us struggling in the red zone. And I do think that Harrison Butker is going to be a key player in this Chiefs if they're to pull out a victory this weekend against the Raiders. For my defensive player, I'm going to go Melvin Ingram. Why am I going to go him? We saw last week what he was able to do. He was able to put pressure on Jordan Love. He did exactly what we needed him to do. And obviously this is another week into the Andy Reid Spagnuolo system. He knows the game a little bit more better. He understands what the Chiefs want from him at this point. I think he's going to be a key player. They're going to be too focused on Frank Clark and Chris Jones because the way Frank Clark has been playing, the offensive line needs to show a little bit more respect towards Frank Clark, and obviously Chris Jones. You always need to show respect towards Chris Jones because you know the player he is. So I think this is going to be able to free up Melvin Ingram a little bit more. He's going to get to Derek Carr. I think he's going to put those pressures, and he's going to get a sack this weekend.
Going right back to you, Eddie, because you picked the Packers last week, and motherfucker, were you wrong. Who wins this game, Chiefs or Raiders? You don't have to give a score. Just let me know who do you think ends up winning this game? Because if Butker's a key factor in this game, then that means you're thinking this is gonna be a pulse pounder.
It's gonna be a field goal battle. I think it's gonna come down to who has the better kicker, and I think the Chiefs are gonna pull this one out.
Okay, Trevor, do you have?
I'm picking the Chiefs. I think we're just the better team outright. I think all the struggles and the things that have been going on and off the field for the Raiders, I just think we're the better team, man. I think the Raiders are going to get outcoached. I think Andy Reid's going to have a really good game plan heading into this one. We know this team very well. We know they like to run the ball. I think we're going to try our best to slow that down. And like I said, if we can slow that running game down and not allow Derek Carr to be comfortable in that play action, because that's where he thrives. And we try to maybe bracket Waller, try to take away that number one option. Give them some things underneath, fine. They don't have any guys that are killers, to get the ball. If they don't have speedsters like that to get the ball to and let them make plays, So really, it's why I'm worried about taking away the deep shots because that's where Derek Carr's thrived in the play action deep shots, and then just trying to stuff the run as much as possible. And I think we can do that. I think the Chiefs win fairly comfortably. It's going to be a grinder type game because these games are always competitive. So I'm not expecting any team to outright have a massive lead, but I do think the Chiefs end up winning by 10 points. I think we do. And it could be us up 7, go ice the game with a field goal from Butker. I just like the Chiefs in this game. I just think we have struggled lately, but we tend to know how to beat our division foes. And Andy Reid, more than anybody, knows how to defeat his division foes. And
I just think the Chiefs are the better team, man. I think we pull out this victory. It may not be the prettiest win. It could be tight and uncomfortable for most of the game, but I think we pull away and win by 10 points.
If I look, I've been trying to keep my excitement down because I'm still very worried about this roster as a whole.
You want this to be a get-right game so bad.
But I will not lie, and I talked to Clay Windler, our producer, and Red Stripe Cinema owner, this week about when I'm going to buy into this defense. And that's when I see the Chiefs defense show me that they can do what they did the last 2 weeks against a guy like Derek Carr. And I think that they will. I'm going to give this defense just a one last push of confidence and belief that they can really be that. Because one thing, I will criticize Spagnuolo all day long because he deserves it for his distrust in players that are much better than Dan Sorensen, or his lack of common sense that when you see a player like Dan Sorensen giving up multiple touchdowns unlike any other player in the league, or missing tackles unlike any other player in the league, that you don't sit him down. But I will say this. Spagnuolo's defenses do get better as the season progresses. And if you add guys like Melvin Ingram, that tells me one thing. When you add a guy like Melvin Ingram mid-season, that tells me that you are all in. That tells me you're trying to still do something this season. You have not packed up shop and just try to put some, window dressing out there for the fans, but really, deep down the season's over.
It reminds me of the Suggs signing kind of too.
Unlike Suggs, though, I do believe that Melvin Ingram still has enough in the tank to really make a positive influence. I think Terrell Suggs was more of a locker room guy to just kind of hold down the fort.
He was already a champion too. He knew.
Right. Melvin Ingram to me is a guy that's motivated by the fact that he's never won anything. And I think that is going to be a difference. I think that you're going to see a motivated and a defense that's willing to pack a punch and make a statement in front of the nation, because the last time they were on national television, it was against the Bills, and they got beat by 18 points in their house. They got absolutely humiliated. I think I don't think they forgot that. I think they're going to go into Las Vegas, and I think this defense is going to play a very good game. I'm not saying a great game, but a very good game to where they make Derek Carr's night tough, and they're going to make him to force the ball in the air downfield, and that's going to create turnovers. And I as much as I still am out on the Chiefs offense right now because of the way they've looked so inept, not just mediocre, but inept for multiple weeks, I think this is that time where Patrick Mahomes does build upon something like that throw. I don't want to give that throw way too much credit, but I'm going to give it some, because I believe a guy like him, they just need to see one go down. Because what has been the comparison between Patrick Mahomes and cross sports? Steph Curry, right? Okay, Steph Curry's had off nights. Mm-hmm. He's had off weeks. Okay, even in the playoffs, Steph Curry's had cold nights and cold series. But once he starts seeing it go down, Steph Curry turns into what he is, which is the greatest shooter of all time. I believe Patrick Mahomes is the greatest quarterback to ever play this game. And I will say that until he proves me otherwise for an extended period of time, which he has not. And I don't believe he ever will. I think this is when you saw Patrick Mahomes see one go down from deep. He saw Tyreek Hill, swish, bam. Now Patrick Mahomes comes back. I truly believe Patrick Mahomes is coming back, and it starts this week. In his career, he averages 314 yards and almost 3 touchdowns. It's 2.8 touchdowns per game against the Chiefs. I think those are going to be his numbers, between 2 and 3 touchdowns and over 300 yards against this defense. I know Gus Bradley's going to make the game early very, very difficult, because I think the scripted plays are going to look really good. I think that Gus Bradley's going to have this defense motivated and juiced, but when Patrick Mahomes makes a couple 3rd and 5, 3rd and 6, 3rd and 7 plays to extend the drives, those defenses aren't going to know what to do. And because of the fact they don't play a lot of cover too, I think the Chiefs offense clicks this game. I agree with Trevor. I think Travis Kelce's going to have a big game, a big breakout game, and goddamn has he been due for one, because he has not been good for about 3 or 4 weeks since he got that stinger. I think that's what you're going to see in this game. The Chiefs will win this game. I don't know what my score is going to be yet, because I could see this being a game where Harrison Butker actually makes the game-winning field goal. But I can also see, like Trevor said, winning a 30-19 or 27-17 type of game. I could see one of those two. I'm still battling it, so hang tough with me, people, because I promise you I will have my prediction official by tomorrow when we give out our full slate of game predictions. But I truly believe the Chiefs are going to win this game. I feel very confident. I'm really trying to reserve my excitement, because I know I'm going to go full homer if and when the Chiefs win this game, because they're going to be 6-4, 1 game out of the 1 seed. You better believe, man. I'm going to start buying stock again, man.
It's a primetime game, must-win game. I'm taking Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes.
Thank you.
I
That's
just
been my whole point of saying
it's that simple
I
for me.
long-winded that, but
Yeah.
Trevor just basically narrowed it down.
That's the
I trust
simplified
Andy
version,
Reid and
yeah.
Patrick Mahomes over whoever the fuck Goldberg lookalike backup head coach that they have over there with Derek Carr. I just do. I just believe they're going to get the job done. I believe this team, because of the fact they've been to back-to-back Super Bowls, I'm going to give them enough cachet and credit that as the season progresses and they start to look better, they will prove that to me. Otherwise, we'll come back here next week and drag them for not getting it done. Because we've been doing that for weeks now. We've not been afraid to sit here and criticize this team. But as much as I'll criticize them, as quickly as I'll criticize them, I will quickly praise them. I will give them all the flowers they deserve if they go out there and make a statement against this Raiders team, who's been good this season to this
Momentum
point.
is a hell of a drug, baby. We got to keep it rolling.
Before we're still waiting for our guy, your boy Q254. We're waiting for him still. I know he's had a busy day. He's got a busy schedule, guys. What can I say? We're still waiting for him. I actually feel bad because our guy Stan Simmons left us a voice note. So before we get to hold this L, I want to get to our guy Stan because it was only a couple of hours ago he actually dropped this line for us. So without further ado, our guy from Fresno, Cali, Mr. Stan Simmons, has a question for us.
Hey guys, it's me, Stan. Been dealing with a little back issue for a little bit here, so I'm on the IR for a little bit from work. Anyway, a couple weeks ago, you and Trevor and Lance had a spirited discussion about player and fan interaction, especially on social media. Both you guys had good points. Both you guys were correct in a sense, but I'm going to lean with Lance a little bit here. And the reason why is because experienced fans like myself who've been following the team for years, just like you guys have too, we just expect a better product. And when the players are not giving their all, sometimes it does seem like, you've been cheated. And then we also have with the whole Damon Arnett situation for the Raiders. So my question is, what would you guys do to advise these players how to interact with fans on social media?
That's a damn good question.
Yeah.
That's a damn good question. You know what I love about the most is we didn't talk about that at all. So now we give like this fresh take. We don't have to like re-emphasize on something we already talked about today. Like we really get to like break down something we haven't talked about today. And again, I thank Stan for siding with the guy who was right in that conversation. I really appreciate that, Stan, for convincing.
Pretty sure he said we were both right, but yeah.
But he sided with me, so that's all that matters. So I got Stan Simmons on my side. But no, I'll say this. When people ask me, because I've had that question asked to me before about like, well, what would you do? If you were that player, what would you do if you were the PR, head of PR for the Chiefs or a team? How do you handle this? It's not, to me, really what you can do. It's about expecting better from the player and demanding that from them. Because at the end of the day, Tyrann Mathieu has every right. In particular, I'm talking about Anthony Hitchens and Tyrann Mathieu. Yeah. They have every right to express themselves how they want to, just like we do, because they're people. And that's what I will forever give them. But when you are in a position that those guys are in, I'm going to hold you to a higher standard because you have to be able to have that in you to rise above what these people are putting in your way. I mean, guys, are we really going to sit here? I'm just some dude on Twitter that has less than 2,000 followers, but I get crushed and criticized constantly. And I could easily let that get under my skin and just go at those people and nothing ever comes of it. But these guys have it 25,000 times worse than I do because they have 25,000 times the amount of followers. So if I can rise above it and I hold myself to that standard, then I'm going to hold these paid millionaires to an even higher standard than I hold myself, or at least equal footing and equal ground as to where I hold myself. You have to be able to rise above it, and if I was in charge of the PR staff in Kansas City, I would make it very simple. Create the big picture scenario for these players, okay? Let's say you engage with these fans, or let's say you call them toxic. Let's say that you call them brats, or, you guys are, scrubs, or all y'all this and all y'all that. What is the best case scenario that comes out of that? Does that help your team? Does that motivate you as a player? Does that motivate your team? Does that help you with the good graces of the fans that come out to support you each and every week? Or does it do the opposite? It's very simple. It's going to do the opposite. So why don't you You can see what they're saying, you can feel what they're saying, you can use it as motivation, but you giving them back what they want, because that's really what they want is your attention, you giving them back what they want and then going at them and fighting fire with fire is only going to ignite more of a dramatic situation between you and your coaching staff, and then the media is going to eat it up, and they're going to sit there and go, oh, so we saw that you engaged with this fan and this and that, and then you got to do what Tyrann Mathieu did and create this entire diatribe of him sitting there having to apologize for simply having a stupid, useless, and frivolous engagement between you and some dude that has 18 fucking followers on Twitter. Simply because he got under your skin somehow, some way. You got to be better than that because you are better than that. You are better than the person that's simply sitting there trying to get you to give them some credence and some clout by getting you to respond to them. It's that simple.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to go into this again, I mean, I never really disagreed with what you were saying. I was just playing both sides because there's truths to both sides. Both sides are wrong and both sides are right, unfortunately. It's a weird, sticky situation that we were put in as fans and as me as a guy who typically defends the players most of the time in situations like that, because a lot of times with players, man, we remove the human element to them as if there's something that we're not. They are us. We are them. We are all human beings. Everyone has tendencies. Everyone has personality traits. Some guys like Tyrann, can't turn it off. When he's on the field, when he's off the field. That's just who he is. That's what makes him great. That's also his Achilles heel simultaneously. And us as fans need to understand that too. We can't sit here and get mad that he's calling us as fans toxic when we're immediately telling him to take those colors off. Telling him we're going to bury your ass. It's like that scene in the movie where a guy's freaking out and they're like, calm down. He's like, I am calm. You're leaning into what they're saying you're not doing. You know what I mean? So like when fans try to fight the toxic remarks with toxicity, I'm like, guys, you're doing it. Like you're that, you know what I mean? So it's just I had problems with both sides. Obviously, my advice to guys like Tyrann, just stay off social media, dude. That would be my advice to Stan's question. What would my advice be? Is just stay off. Not everybody belongs on social media. Like guys like Tyrann who just can't turn it off. You're out there beefing with people for free, bro. You're a paid athlete. You're living your dream. You're doing what you do. You don't need to prove shit to these fans that are saying stuff to you, man. You just don't. Unfortunately, Tyrann likes this kind of stuff. This is kind of stuff that fires him up. He just, like I said, can't turn it off. Hitchens, I didn't really have anything at Hitchens. I didn't really have an issue with what Hitchens said. Tyrann made more of a personal beef.
I had a lot of problems with Hitchens, what Hitchens said. Not just because of the words he said, but because of who the fuck he is. Like, Hitchens was on the coattails of Patrick Mahomes and Tyrann Mathieu to get to back-to-back Super Bowls, and he used that as ammunition against the fans. Like, bro, you're a role player.
No.
That's literally like a Jamal Crawford kind of guy.
Here we go.
I'm just saying, like, you can't be sitting here acting like you got the kind of weight to be saying shit like that when you're not, when you don't.
What he was saying is they were talking about should we trade the whole thing started on that breakdown of who should the Chiefs move on from Tyrann and Hitchens, these guys. They were being mentioned. He was talking about he wasn't just talking about how he's great as a player. He was talking about since we arrived, we've done nothing but go to multiple AFC championship games and win a Super Bowl. That's a good point. That's not a bad point. You can break down who was the biggest performers in that game. He was a part of the nucleus that brought us what we wanted for all of our lives.
If he stopped right there, I would agree with you.
Well, he was triggered, of course.
He started calling us spoiled fans and things of that nature.
But as a player, how can you not feel that way in the sense that you brought something in this city that we've never had before since we've all been alive, we've wanted our whole lives.
That's the point I'm trying to make, though, is the fact that Anthony Hitchens is a role player on a team that did change the course of the history of this franchise.
By name, man.
I get it, but this is the whole point about what you just said, but you have nothing to talk to these people about. You have nothing to prove to these people.
For sure.
Keep moving. That's what I'm saying. Because Anthony Hitchens, to me, does himself no favors because he doesn't have enough cachet and credence in this city to be saying things like that. Because he's not one of the most pivotal characters on the team. He's not even the third. He's not even the second. I'm just saying, though, that when you're sitting here calling a fan base spoiled, when you're a guy that got paid to come in here to be the primary linebacker and you failed at that, and this team has more times than not won despite you, that's a problem. That's a problem. Anthony Hitchens has been awful this season. Awful. Yeah. So bad that he's now not even the second best linebacker on this team, and one of them's a rookie. And the other guy's an injury-prone player to this point. Yeah. So please spare me this whole calling us a spoiled fan base when we spent 30-plus years watching this team win 2 fucking playoff games.
Listen, this applies to both sides, the fans and the players. It is 100% a choice to be offended.
That goes to Anthony Hitchens, too.
That's what I just said.
Yeah.
This goes for the players and the fans.
Yep.
This is a shouting match that goes nowhere. Sir, you have to choose to be offended. That's why I was upset with a lot of these fans talking about, I'm bury your ass, take these colors off, you don't belong here. Guys, you're doing it. Like, it's counterintuitive. That's not going to go anywhere. We need these guys right now. We have a season to finish. How you feel about them after the season ends, wherever they end up after the season ends, so be it. We can talk all once that time comes. Right now, we need them. We need these guys. We need to band together as fans. We need to band together as players and try to do what we can as much as we can during this season while we have them here. So that was my biggest problem. Obviously, my advice, again, to answer that question would just be certain people just do not belong on social media. Don't be giving don't be giving oxygen to people that don't deserve it. That was just a lose-lose for both sides. It stirred up the fans in a negative light, and it definitely shed some negative light on the players. So that was a lose-lose for us as a fan base. It was a bad look for the fans and the players in my mind. So, not a fun situation. I don't even like talking about this again, but here we are.
Our guy Stan Simmons, man, he knows Ignited. Eddie, I think he's coming for your title, man, on the trigger title.
I see that.
Good question by our guy Stan Simmons. We always appreciate him contributing to our show on a week basis at this point, man. And if you guys have any video or audio messages you want to send us, man, go to our Anchor app and drop us a little quick video note or a audio note. We always appreciate that. We appreciate everybody in the Monday mailbag each and every week. We're still waiting to hear back from our guy, your boy Q254 on Twitter. He's an on-air personality for LV Sports Network and ESPN Las Vegas and several other shows. But in the meantime, we're going to get to the final order of business. We are getting to what's it called? God, I forget what it's called, guys. Hold this L. Each and every episode, each and every week, we finish off each and every episode with a series of L's in the world of sports, whether they're friendly or not friendly in the world of sports. We promise you, who is ever holding those L's, those motherfuckers deserve it. Eddie Ortiz, Mr. Yo, who's holding the L for you this week?
Oh, I'm gonna go with the Mexico national team. Motherfuckers better hold this L. Yesterday they played the U.S. For the CONCACAF World Cup qualifyings, which is the World Cup is next year, so they're in the final stage of the qualifying. So obviously this is the first matchup of two matchups that they're gonna have in this CONCACAF World Cup qualifying. Obviously this one, it was a must-win for Mexico. It was either lose and you'll lose 3 straight to the U.S., which hasn't happened in about, I want to say, 16 years. So this was a must-win for Mexico for the simple fact that you lost 2 straight finals in the Nations League and then the Gold Cup. So this was a get-right for Mexico. This was a come in, we got to take care of business, and we got to stay in first place. Whatever we do, we got to either get a draw out of the U.S. or get a win. That was it. There was no ifs or buts. They came into the game with high expectations. They failed miserably. The U.S. dominated the whole entire fucking game. The U.S. just completely decimated Mexico. The score was 2-0. Obviously, they didn't score till the second half, but Mexico they were lost the entire game. The U.S. was able to do the game the way they wanted to do, and they did what they wanted to do in a sense. This was a must win. They disappointed. Obviously, the manager calling up players that shouldn't be in the team. Instead of calling younger players, he calls up the old veterans, thinking that they're gonna help win this team. But in reality, they're affecting the growth of the rest of the players. Compared to the U.S., the U.S. has 18-year-olds, 20-year-olds. I think they had. I think it was only seven or 8 players in the entire squad that were over the age of 24 or 25. Can't remember. That tells you a lot because the U.S. is playing with nothing but a young squad, and Mexico is over here playing with the older squad. Obviously, the game is changing. Mexico is not changing with the game. The U.S. is obviously adjusting to the game. They're playing in a more fast-paced European-style soccer because most of their young talent is in Europe. Therefore, that style the U.S. is playing is a lot more European kind of style soccer. Fast, go at it. We're going to attack. Yes. And obviously, Mexico just didn't know how to handle that. And this just shows and proves that the U.S. and the MLS is outgrowing the Liga MX and Mexico in general. So this is concerning. It's 3 games in a row, and it looks like it can be a lot more coming up if Mexico doesn't get right. Mexico has young talent that is just as great, or if not better than the U.S. With young talent. We have it there. They just don't utilize it like the U.S. does. The U.S. Mexico waits till they're in their late 20s to start utilizing them when it's already they're in the middle of their peak or they're about to end their peak, and that's one thing that Mexico has to change, that culture. So Mexico, you played a disappointing game. So for that reason, you're gonna have to
hold this L. Trevor Twidwell, who's holding the L for you this week?
All right, so we know the story. We were talking about it a lot when it all happened, and we all, kind of shat on the Raiders when this all went down. But I've actually rethought a lot of things with the Gruden situation. And I'm actually going to give the L to the NFL right now because it's a really bad look for how everything's gone down, and since we've had time to reflect and look into why, and the timing of the situation for John Gruden. Granted, this is not me standing here on any kind of show or moment for me to speak and try to defend what was said in those emails for John Gruden, because what he said was what he said. And it's not really as much of a surprise to us who have known who John Gruden kind of is and how he holds himself and thinks of himself. But at the same time, it is a really strange scenario for when these emails surface. I believe there's like 650,000 emails. And a lot of those, granted, look, it could be a situation where those ones just seem to stand out when they've been going through, because I'm sure there's going to be a lot more that's going to surface, and it might end a lot more other careers for other people, owners, head coaches, whatever. There was some stuff coming out about even in the NBA, there's some stuff coming out. So, it's hard to hide all this stuff. But the reason I'm giving the NFL this L is because for one, they're being sued right now by John Gruden. I think rightfully so, because, and I feel weird defending Gruden in this sense, because it definitely felt like an outright attack on his career and who he is and his job. I felt like they were headhunting for him and taking 20 to take his job. I'm not sure why John Gruden happened to me. Granted, the Gruden brothers are kind of known as kind of like these shiesty type guys, and obviously Jay Gruden, the shit that went on in Washington, there's probably a lot of stuff that we don't even know about, and the stuff that we do know about is pretty disgusting as it is. I'm giving the NFL the L here because the timing and the way it felt like a witch hunt kind of on John Gruden, and the fact that they're being sued now, and I think John Gruden has a good case against them, for why now, why all of a sudden, why him, when he knows there's probably a whole lot more going on, and with other people and other names, and the 650,000 emails that are existing and that are being, evaluated at this moment. It's just a bad look for the NFL because of, how they treat, their head coaches. That's just a weird way to treat a head coach. Granted, what he said was what he said, but just to make pretty much a hit piece on him, and it's just a bad look, and that's what my whole argument is on the NFL dealing with bad new rule changes, and then now dealing with pretty much hit pieces on their head coaches. If this was a head coach treating a certain player this way or something like that, we'd be frowning upon that head coach. This is how you treat your players. So the NFL, this is how you treat your head coaches. If anything goes, you're going to publicly blast them without even consulting with them first. I don't really know everything that went on behind the scenes, but the fact that the NFL is being straight up sued right now from a head coach, it's just a bad look. That means he's got some kind of leverage on the NFL that he's probably going to, honestly, there's probably going to be some kind of settlement. That's the NFL taking an L. So for that, the NFL, do me a favor and
hold this L. We are a few minutes away from our guy, your boy Q, joining on the show with us. I know this is not usually how we do things, but guys, when we have a valued commodity as a guest on our show, we have to make the time for him. So I'm going to roll through my L, but as soon as he's on, we're bringing him on. So I actually have a W I want to hand out, and it's something we already mentioned before on the show, but I actually want to give it a W to Steph Curry because of the fact that he did make history last night by passing Ray Allen for the most three-pointers made, both regular season and playoffs combined, with 3,359 total. And it's insane to think, too, because Ray Allen did that. I believe he made that his final game is at 39 years old, 38 years old, I think it was.
Like 5 more seasons.
Yeah,
like that.
Steph Curry's 33.
Yeah.
So it's incredible to see what he's been able to do at such I don't want to say short round of time because I think this is his 12th season in the league, 12th or 13th season in the league. And but still to just see like the fewer shot attempts and the fewer seasons, like you said, Trevor, like to go over at that time the greatest 3-point shooter ever in Ray Allen, for him to do it at the clip that he's done it, man, and he's probably gonna lap Ray Allen at this point because I don't see Steph Curry slowing down anytime soon. I think he's got another 3 or 4 years of awesome basketball
it's crazy
left.
To think, too. I remember when we were watching peak Ray Allen, like, dude, no one's.
Yeah.
Are we ever going to see anything better than this?
And Steph's
now
done it
we're looking
with
at Steph
ease.
like, bro, how could we have ever thought anyone was better than this?
It's just
that's
dumb.
how great he is.
Like I said, guys, the 2 greatest shooters I've ever seen in NBA history are Steph Curry and Steph Curry on a bad night.
Yeah.
So I'm giving him a W for that, and I just love seeing greatness. I love seeing historic feats be taken, and Steph did that, and he's the greatest shooter of all time by far. My L is actually going to go back to the NFL, Trevor. They're catching multiple L's this week of something we also mentioned because of the fact that this Cassius Marsh situation angers me so deep to my core because it takes away so much of what I love about the NFL, which is the passion, the zeal, seeing players celebrate something they've worked so hard for. Guys like Cassius Marsh, who've been in the league now for 8 years and have bounced around, they made such a big play on primetime television against a former team of his, to be able to have that not be the focus of the situation where, man, it's really cool to see a guy like Cassius Marsh make a big play like that and make a difference, like a game that they could have very well won and saved their season. Now we're sitting here talking about something that had nothing to do with Cassius Marsh, quite frankly. He could have been any player. And the saddest part about it was, and I saw this on Good Morning Football, they mentioned it, and I want to mention it too, is seeing the Bears sidelines and the coaches jumping Cassius Marsh's ass about it.
Yeah.
When you should have had your players back because he literally did jack shit to cause any of what your team was penalized for. It was all in the NFL, and the fact the NFL doubled down and did not penalize or discipline Tony Correnti, one of the longest tenured umpires, referees in the NFL, to see them still double down and ignore what was so blatantly obvious just really pisses me off. And for that, the NFL is going to have to do me a solid and hold this L. I have one more L.
The NFL, man.
I have one more L. I'm greedy today, guys, and we are still waiting for our guy Q to hop on with us. I know he's a couple minutes away, but I'm going to give an L to myself. And the reason why
Loser.
is because of a Chiefs player that I have vehemently defended for multiple seasons now, has now once again let us down and let me down for the final time. And that is one McCole Hardman. You guys know better than anyone, but anyone that follows me on social media knows that I have been an avid defender of McCole Hardman. I thought this guy could absolutely be a complimentary piece. I know he was brought in here initially to potentially replace Tyreek Hill with all the allegations against Tyreek Hill 2 years ago. Luckily, that wasn't the case for more reasons than one. But the biggest reason I want to attack it is because I truly believe this was going to be the year. I said this before the season. The guy I thought was going to benefit the most off of the offensive line improvements wasn't even Patrick Mahomes or the running game. It was going to be McCole Hardman for his downfield throws and the ability to get open in space. We haven't seen that. And even on the plays where Patrick Mahomes was relying on McCole Hardman just to extend drives on third and shorts, he can't make those plays either. And he's been turning the ball over at a clip that is very uncomfortable for me, both in special teams and on offense. I am officially out of the McCole Hardman business. I'm off the bandwagon. I was one of the few out there. I mean, there was probably fewer people on his bandwagon than his jersey number, and I was one of them. And it just sucks to say because I don't like giving up on players, especially young players, but I'm not seeing any improvement whatsoever from one McCole Hardman. And for that, I would give him an L, but instead for my defenses, and I've had some hot takes on Twitter, I've had some hot takes on Facebook about McCole Hardman and the defense I had for him, but instead I'm giving it to myself. So Lance Twidwell, you dumb fuck, do me a solid and hold this L.
Now he's going to score 3 touchdowns this week.
That's exactly, maybe the reverse psychology will do some good.
There we go.
But while we wait for our guy, your boy Q, I actually wanted to just kind of improvise a little bit because we are waiting for him. We're going to wait for him for a few more minutes. Eddie, I wanted to ask you a question about the Pulisic situation. Now, I know this is something that you're very much passionate about and something we discussed before the show about how the U.S. is viewing Mexico and this situation about the man in the mirror, the message he put on his shirt. If you could expand on the validity for Pulisic doing what he did and the viewpoint right now of U.S. and Mexico soccer.
Well, first of all, the comments the man on the mirror reference that Pulisic showed after that goal came because of Guillermo Ochoa, which is the goalkeeper for for Mexico, which is Memo Ochoa, said that the U.S. Wanted to pretty much mimic what Mexico has done in the past, and in some sense that's kind of truthful in a way, because Mexico has been the powerhouse of the CONCACAF. That they have been the giants of the CONCACAF for years and years and years, and the U.S. is finally trying to get out of that shadow, trying to become more of a become known as the giants, become the giants of CONCACAF. So there was truth to the comments that Ochoa made, and then you also have Pulisic responding to those comments, because at the end of the day, the U.S. is the U.S. and Mexico is Mexico. So it's just kind of like rivalry week. It's the same thing about Mexico and U.S. Those games are always exciting to watch because they always give everything. Obviously, Mexico has more wins than losses against the U.S. because the U.S. just recently started making soccer a top priority in the U.S., something that they hadn't done. Obviously, MLS, still brand new. It was made in 96, 94, 96, I can't remember. 94. No, 96, after the World Cup here that was held here in 94. Just crazy to think that I think there was a professional soccer league here, which I think is a USL. But obviously it decimated because of the way they ran the league, and obviously the MLS was born in 96. Now it's 2021. They've expanded the MLS. They made it to a competitive league. In a sense, it's still obviously not one of the top leagues in the world. It's still a step behind the Mexican league, but it is catching up, and it's catching up rapidly. And it's something Mexico has to put into consideration, that their league is stuck and the U.S. is just evolving. It keeps on evolving. We saw it with the talent last night that the U.S. had many young players from 18 to a certain age. I think out of all of them, I think about 7. I might be right. I could be wrong. 7 or 8. 7 players I think were under the age of 24. I think could be wrong. Could be the other way around. But it's time for the U.S. to keep pushing on that. Keep grinding on, and they will eventually get to a point where they can compete with for the World Cup. But at this moment in time, enjoy the victories. There's still a long way to go for the U.S. There's still a long process ahead. You guys are destined to probably win a World Cup, but not now. So
Yeah.
But yeah.
Well, I appreciate it, because I was trying to figure that out myself to better understand that situation, and I appreciate you breaking that down for us. But in the meantime, we have a very special guest on the show, because it's not just Raider Week. It's a week where I like to be informed on the other side. I always feel that when we have beat reporters or people that cover the other team that the Chiefs are facing, I always learn something about that team, and I appreciate and respect the people's time. Speaking of that time, it is time for a man who is very busy. He's had himself a busy morning. I know he's probably busy all the time, and we are so grateful for his time today. He's on LV Sports Network. He's on RNR 920 AM. He's on ESPN Las Vegas, Fox Sport LV, 1230 The Game. He's the host of Locked On Bets podcast. Let's give it up for our guy, your boy Q.
Hey, what's happening, man? Appreciate you guys having me on the show. Sorry I'm running a little bit late.
You're good, man. We're just glad to chat it up with you. So we wanted to jump on first and foremost. We like to give our first time segments with the people that joined our show today, giving you a little bit of an opportunity to let the people know how you started up, how you became who you became or who you are, and just give us a backstory, man, so we better understand out here on the Kansas City side.
Yeah, it's funny, man. I'm a guy that was a music DJ, on-air personality, on the West Coast for many years, hip-hop music and everything, and big sports fan my whole life, obviously. And it's funny, I mentioned being in the barbershop this morning. Always been, arguing sports in the barbershop. That's traditional, that's kind of how it is. When you see movies about the barbershop, that's real. That's real life. That's how it goes down, And so I've always been a big sports fan. So I actually moved to Texas for a radio job as far as music goes, and ended up in the building with ESPN Central Texas. And so I just kind of hustled my way onto that radio station and fell in love with sports radio. And as I started getting older and, I started kind of fall out of love with the certain hip hop style, it wasn't really my thing. So I just decided I wanted to more focus on sports. And so I started doing that. And I grew up a Raider fan my whole life, being from the Bay Area. I always just kind of felt like the Raiders never had a lot of conversation. So I had a buddy that wanted me to jump on a podcast with them. So I started it. I got on with them, and then all of a sudden it turned into, the Locked On Raiders podcast. Then all of a sudden I'm, now I'm in Las Vegas. After being 10 years in Texas, I'm in Las Vegas now, and, Raider Nation Radio, and like you mentioned, ESPN Las Vegas, Fox Sports Las Vegas. I got my podcast. I got, it's crazy how things are. So it just go from a kid that was like a fan of the team to being a guy that hosts a pregame show in Allegiant Stadium, every home game. Like it's incredible, but it's a fun ride, man. So I do appreciate you guys having me on. I do appreciate you asking about the backstory, man. It's been a fun story. Backstories
are always important to me, man, because it gets me in a mindset of understanding where you're coming from with what you tell us. So we do appreciate it, man. And that's actually where I want to jump right in, because we can talk about this matchup, and trust me, we will. But I want to get an idea from you, and it sounds to me like you're the perfect guy to get this from. What is the current state of the Raiders as an organization and as a team? We see so many moving pieces with John Gruden being out, and then Henry Ruggs, and then Damon Arnett. We've seen this team be resilient despite that, but they're now, they've lost 3 of their last 5 games. Where is the current status of this team with Mike Mayock and with the potential of having a next head coach? Is this the right guy, or are they going to be going for somebody in the offseason?
That's a great question. That's something I've asked multiple times on the radio, and not that it's an answer that I have to have right now, but it's something worth thinking about. At the end of the season, what happens? Does Mike Mayock lead the ship forward? Does he, continue to be the GM and go into the draft and go into the offseason, or do they go in a complete different direction, And I personally, just my gut feeling, think that this is going to be one of those where you see Mike Mayock for at least one more year to see what he can do without John Gruden being over him, because we all know John Gruden was the end-all be-all. He was the guy who made all the decisions. Mark Davis described it the other day as John Gruden had 51% say and Mike Mayock had 49%. I think it was more like 75-25. You know what I mean? I think it was way more Gruden than even that, but you get the gist of it. John Gruden had the final say over the roster, over everything. So I think that it would make sense for Mike Mayock to go in there and be the guy. But that's one of the big questions we have here in Vegas is he going to be the guy? Who's going to be the next head coach? Is Derek Carr going to get a contract extension? I mean, there's so many questions that are up in the air right now. It's just it's hard to figure out. And as far as the team itself that's going to be out there on Sunday, they are resilient. They are a tight-knit bunch, and I think that actually helps them because they all genuinely, and I know a lot of teams say this, we all like each other. This team really does love each other, and I think that's why the loss of Henry Ruggs was so big and massive, because it was more than just a football player. It legit was their brother. It was one of those guys that they would hang out with and they would look for, and this is a different team. I've been around a lot of teams, and this one you could just feel they all genuinely really love each other. So that was something I thought was a big loss for them, obviously. And of course, what led up to it was tragic. Our hearts pour out for the young lady's family that obviously she was lost, Tina Tintor, a 23-year-old here in Vegas. I mean, just tragic, but it's tough, man. So I'm interested to see how they go the rest of the season, how they navigate through Gruden being gone, Henry Ruggs, probably going to jail for quite a while. I mean, there's so many things that are going on, but at the end of the day, man, these guys are football players and they have a job to do and they realize that. So I think that they'll be able to handle it and do it. But man, at the end of the season, it's going to be one of those where they're going to let their hair down and just take a big sigh of relief. Like, hey, this is over for at least, for now. It's been very taxing on the team for sure.
Where do you stand on things? Because from the outside looking in, we can form our opinion on what took place with John Gruden, whether it should have happened, whether it was an inside job. There's so many theories of what took place and what actually the truth is. But you're in it, man. You're in the muck and the mire. You're deep in all of this, and we need to hear it from you. Where do you stand on this with John Gruden? What do you think truly has happened and transpired to cause things to be what they ultimately are, which is him and the team no longer being in a relationship of sorts?
It seems like there was, I hate to say a hit job, but it seems like that someone really wanted John Gruden removed. You know what I mean? Because I don't understand how you can investigate the Washington football team and then ultimately this come out about John Gruden and he's the only one that takes the fall. and then it's like, okay, it's over. There's nothing to look at here. So.
Right.
You know, it just came out. One of my colleagues on Raider Nation Radio 920, Vinny Bonsignor, also works for the Las Vegas Review-Journal. They put out yesterday that John Gruden is, in fact, suing the NFL. And I don't think it's for money. I think he's suing it because he wants to know, like, how did we get here? You know what I mean? Who's the person who put this paper out? Who's the one who put this emails out? Who's the one who gave it to the Wall Street Journal? Why am I the only guy? Not excusing what he said, because that was bad. You know, I mean, he deserved everything he got, but I want to know how we got here. How did we receive the emails? How did we find out about John Gruden and we didn't find out about Daniel Snyder? We didn't find out about Bruce Allen. We didn't find out about Jerry Jones. We didn't find out about anyone else, Robert Kraft. I mean, there's no one else out there, and I'm not saying those guys are bad guys. I'm just saying nobody else has anything out of 650,000 emails. It was only John Gruden that had something. That seems a little suspect to me. So I'm interested to see where this lawsuit goes, and I'm interested to see who's the one who had the agenda to, okay, we're going to make sure this guy is out. And I just feel like there had to be a scapegoat, and John Gruden is that guy. Again, not excusing what he said because that was wrong, but just he's the only one? Like, it just seems kind of strange.
Oh, it's definitely suspect for sure. But one of the positive stories from the Raiders this year is Max Crosby. And I'm not just talking about from a football side of things. I'm talking about from a personal standpoint. This guy, according to him, is 20 months sober, and he's had a lot of addiction problems throughout his life. And I know Darren Waller is a very, very much a success story as well. But in particular with Max Crosby, who I think is one of the most underappreciated players in the league, can just kind of expand on his story as a whole from what you know about Max Crosby, because I think it's incredible.
I love his story. I really do. I'm glad you brought that up, because I'll tell you, in training camp, watching him, I kept saying he looks so fast. He looks way faster than he did last year. He just looks like, I don't know, just another level. And that's when it really started being, put out there that he was sober. Like you mentioned, now 20 months. He just tweeted that out the other day. And I'm so happy for him, because he said it. Hey, I was lost in the sauce. I was go out there. I was partying. That goes back to college. He got a DUI in college because, he was out there drinking. And so to know that he is living that life, he's clean and sober, and he's having fun. He's enjoying life. And, you could see him in the play on the field. He's more of a leader. He's not, you can see he's not sluggish. I mean, it's great to see that there's a lot of positivity that can come from Las Vegas, because a lot of people are pointing the finger at Vegas. Well, Henry Ruggs, that's because of Vegas. Damon Arnett, he's crazy because he got all this money and he's in Vegas. That's not the case. It's because these guys made awful decisions. Darren Waller could be sober and clean in Las Vegas. Max Crosby could be clean and sober in Las Vegas, and they're doing that. And what a great example for everyone else. Like, hey, you can enjoy your life. You can go out and do whatever you want in life, and you can do it and be sober and still be happy. And that's what Max Crosby is right now. So I'm so happy for him. He just looks like a different dude. He just, on the field, he's incredible, but off the field, he's even a better guy now. I'm so excited and fired up for him, just the way that he's living his life and the example he's leading for, younger folks as well.
Fair or unfair, Derek Carr is one of the most criticized players in the NFL. Now, I know that there's a certain level of attention that you get when you're the Raiders quarterback or a Raiders player at all, but let alone at the most important position. And we've seen him struggle. We've also seen him excel. And this has been one of, if not his best season to date. And he was once an MVP candidate in 2016 before he got hurt. At 30 years old, do you think that Derek Carr is not only getting better, but do you think he's going to be the long-term answer despite all the influx with the Raiders organization? Do you think he's going to be there for the long term?
I think Derek Carr is going to be a Raider quarterback as long as he wants to be. I mean, I just, and I say that because you just don't know. With everything he's had to deal with since he's been in the league, you just don't know if in the offseason, if he looks at his wife and his kids and says, okay, what else can I do? You know what I mean? Like he may, because he's comfortable in who he is. He's not trying to prove anything to anybody. He's not trying to break the bank. He's not worried about making all the money. He said, hey, I've made plenty of money. My kids are fine. We're all good. We're going to live a great lifestyle. He's been awesome. And I'll say this. We talked about the off-field issues with the Raiders. There is not a guy that I think is better suited for what the Raiders organization is going through right now than Derek Carr. He leans on his faith. He leans in the fact that he's comfortable in his own skin. He's not trying to prove anyone wrong anymore. He's just going out there doing what he does and realizes that, hey, there's also bigger things in life than just football. Not saying he doesn't care about the product, because he does. He cares. He wants nothing more than to win. But he also realizes that, hey, I have a bigger purpose as well. And that leadership that he's been showing in this locker room that had a chance to break down 3, 4, 5 weeks ago when the whole Gruden emails came out has stuck together. And Derek Carr has been a big reason why. That dude is, I mean, I've said it on the radio multiple times. He might not be the best quarterback in the league. He's the best guy for this job right now.
We know that the league has moved heavily more to a pass-friendly offensive attack and style. But both of our franchises, the Raiders and Chiefs, have taken running backs in the first round over the last couple of seasons. The Josh Jacobs in 2019 was 24th overall, and the Chiefs, after winning the Super Bowl in 2019, turns around and drafts Clyde Edwards-Helaire with the 32nd overall pick. Now, on our side of things over here in Kansas City, there's been a lot of criticism towards Clyde Edwards-Helaire and that pick because he hasn't produced like a first-round pick. Josh Jacobs, on the other hand, popped immediately almost, and then has had he's been banged up. He's struggled a little bit with his health. But from the Raiders side of things, do you guys believe that he has lived up to that 24th overall pick?
I mean, I think he has. Like you said, he really hit the ground running hard his rookie year. It was amazing. He's had back-to-back 1,000-yard seasons. I expected him to take a big step forward this year, especially after the Raiders went out and got Kenyon Drake. I thought, hey, this is going to help him stay healthy throughout the course of the season, 17 games this year. And the unfortunate part for Josh Jacobs this year is just what you mentioned, the health. He just hasn't been healthy. He looked fast and strong last week against the Giants, even though the Raiders took a loss. He did look like he was really, really sharp. I think that everyone's happy with what they got when they got Josh Jacobs. I think the big question is going to be, are you willing to go out there and exercise your fifth-year option after this season on a running back who's shown that he's been banged up quite a bit? I think that's the only question mark around Josh Jacobs. We know he's got the heart. We know he's got the ability. He's got the speed, the desire. He's a very humble kid. I mean, he's a great dude on and off the court or off the field, but just I don't know if the team is going to look at him and say, well, a fifth-year option is about $10 million. Are we willing to spend that on a guy who might miss 3, 4, 5 games, throughout the course of the season? That's going to be the big question. But as far as just his production and the guy he is, I think everyone involved is very happy with Josh Jacobs.
The Raiders beat the Chiefs last year in Week 5, 40-32. Derek Carr played outside of his mind. I did not expect that performance from him. He was chucking the ball over the field. He was throwing it accurately downfield and just dominated the Chiefs secondary. And one of the biggest reasons was because of Henry Ruggs. And he had 2 catches, I believe, for 118 yards and 1 touchdown that game, but made a humongous difference. Could have very well been the X factor in that game. Well, now that Henry Ruggs is no longer there, I want to get an idea from you, Q. How does Derek Carr attack this Chiefs defense this time around without Henry Ruggs?
That's a good question. Watching the game last week against the Giants, you could see that lack of speed was really, missing for the Raiders offense. And Henry Ruggs was really, that's the other part of this that sucks. I mean, there's so many elements to this story that sucks, but there's the part about Henry Ruggs just on the field, he was really coming into his own this year. He was playing some good ball. He still was only catching 3, 4 catches a week, but you saw the big plays. You saw him stretching the field. You saw Derek Carr throwing him the 50-50 ball, and he'd go get it. I mean, there's a lot of big plays he's made this year, and so that was missing in a major way on Sunday against the Giants. And so now they go out and they sign Deshaun Jackson, which he's a very fast guy. He's a 14-year veteran. You could tell him, hey, this is your responsibility on this play. This is your responsibility on this play, and he'll go execute it. I just don't know with his health history, the hamstring history. I don't know how long he's going to be healthy for, but it's a big loss without Henry Ruggs. So I look at Darren Waller as a guy who's got to step up. Of course, everyone in the league knows that Darren Waller is that guy. Hunter Renfro's been a go-to guy for Derek Carr. I know Zay Jones has speed. I expected him to be a player last week, and he really didn't live up to my expectations. So maybe he gets more heavily involved this week. Bryan Edwards is an interesting player. He's got the size. He's got the strength. He's got the hands. I love his hands as far as catching the ball. He doesn't let it get to his body. It's like vice grips. He'll go catch the ball. And he's been healthy this year. Now, he was kind of missing in action last week as well. So maybe that was just that, hey, this is coming off the week of Henry Ruggs. This is coming off this week. And that was just a bad week for everybody. Maybe that was the case. But it's going to be interesting to see how they are moving forward because a guy like Edwards, Renfro, Waller, they're all going to be needed to step up in a major way. Jones and now Deshaun Jackson. Can they do it is going to be the big question. But no doubt about it, Henry Ruggs not having that speed out there is hurting the Raiders' offense.
Patrick Mahomes has struggled over the last 3 weeks, and it's been something that us in Kansas City have just never seen before, and we didn't think we'd ever would. But a team that Patrick Mahomes has had a lot of success against has been the Raiders. He's 5-1 against them. He's averaging 314 yards per game, 17 total touchdowns, 3 interceptions with a 106 quarterback rating. But as we talked about earlier in the show today, the Raiders, I think very smartly, went and picked up Gus Bradley as their defensive coordinator, who Patrick Mahomes has actually struggled against in his career, averaging only 231 yards a game, 10 touchdowns, 2 interceptions with a 97 quarterback rating. Now, most times you take those numbers with your quarterback against any defense, but with Patrick Mahomes having a standard so high, you have to give Gus Bradley a lot of respect in this matchup. So, with this matchup now in place, and the Raiders struggling against Patrick Mahomes for the majority of his career, but adding Gus Bradley, how much of a difference do you think Gus Bradley is going to make for the Raiders defense this week?
I think he's going to be big. You know, I really do, because of, like you said, the success that he's had against Patrick Mahomes. The thing about it is, what teams are having success against the Chiefs this year is playing that too high safety look. You know, they're making them dink and dunk down the field and not be able to give up that big play. Well, in Gus Bradley's scheme, they run cover 3, you know, and it's 61% of the time. The Raiders run that 61% of the time. They lead the league in how much time they run that cover 3 scheme. And that's not, you know, that too high safety look. That's Trayvon Merrick as your last line of defense. That's Jonathan Abram down in the box, you know. So I'm interested to see if Gus Bradley, and of course he's a smart dude, he knows what he's doing, if he sticks with the recipe that has been working against the Chiefs, or if he says, my way will work. I'm fine. I got this covered. No problem. That's what really interests me. Can he switch up? Can he do some more cover 2 look? Can he do some more of that too high safety look? Can he do what has been working throughout the course of the season? Or is he just going to stick to that cover 3 scheme? That, I think, is going to be one of the bigger factors in this game, because, again, I don't want to say a blueprint that's too easy and cheesy, but it's just like there's a way that you've seen success for other teams. Is he going to follow that, or is he going to do his own thing? I think that's one of the best storylines for this game.
Couple more questions for you here, Q, and these are the most important ones. That's why I saved them for last, of course. First one, who wins this damn game? How does that team win this damn game?
You know, that's a great question. I was asked that earlier this week, and I said that I felt like on the strength of it being in Las Vegas at Allegiant Stadium, because I was there at that Sunday night football game last year when there was no fans in the stands at all. And it was funny. I don't know if you realized it is crazy. There was some Chiefs, like players, families that were there, and they were in a suite, and that was really it. So in a stadium that's dead quiet, every time the Chiefs made a play, you heard the family screaming and yelling and excited. And it was almost like there's not a mute button. There's not something. The only thing you can hear was them. And I was like, wow, that just sounds so strange. So, you know, it was an odd feel. And, of course, you know, the Raiders went to Kansas City and won, and there was only a handful of fans there. So that was such a strange year. I'm thinking that the home field advantages come back for both teams. I really do. And I know Kansas City hasn't been playing that great. And I know they're at 5-4, but I keep feeling like there's going to be a week where they're just the Kansas City Chiefs that you're used to, right? They're just going to be that team that they're going to pop and they're going to hit, and you'll be like, yeah, that's the team that you expect all year long, you know, because, again, this is strange. It's strange to be in this position. It's strange for every team in the AFC West to have 5 wins. I mean, right. When's the last time we saw this? So it's so interesting. So I've been telling everyone, only on the strength of Allegiant Stadium, I'm giving the Raiders a 3-point win, 24-21. I just think that there's a special teams play that's made by the Raiders. Daniel Carlson, he's been kicking pretty well throughout the course of the season. I think he finds a way to kick a field goal and win it. But I'll tell you right now, if they're playing at Arrowhead, I would say 24-21 Kansas City. I feel like the home field advantages will mean something for both teams this year.
That's a valid point. I didn't really even consider that, but it's a very valid point. And so my final question, the most important one here, Q, because you mentioned the barber shop, and it's a real thing when you debate back and forth. We know what the number one question at a barber shop is, the number one debate. So I gotta get your take on this real quick.
Don't do it.
LeBron or MJ, who's the GOAT?
Hey, I'm 45 years old. I'm MJ all day. You know?
Ah, damn it.
You know what happens? You're the guy that walks into the barbershop and says, LeBron James is better than Michael Jordan, and then leaves. Starts the fire and then leaves.
You just throw the Molotov cocktail and let the fire ensue, huh?
That's the argument. That's the number one argument. That's why I knew as soon as you said it, I knew where you were going. But MJ is my guy. I understand every LeBron argument. I get it. But like I said, if I was 25, it's LeBron. If I was 35, probably be LeBron. But since I'm 45 and I lived Michael Jordan's era, I'm going to go with MJ all day.
And if you were 65, you'd probably be saying Kareem, right?
Or Bill Russell or something. Exactly. So.
All right, so Q, listen, I tell. Go ahead.
That argument just never ends. It's just never.
Unless we put it into it and I don't ever bring it up again, then we'll never talk about it again.
Right.
I tell all of our guests this, and I mean this each and every time, and I've had a couple of them call me on it, and I'm willing to give into this. If you're ever in town, Q, in Kansas City to cover the Chiefs and Raiders, barbecue is on us, man.
Okay, hey, done deal. I went to, it's funny, man, I went to Kansas City one time. I've only been there once, and it was for the Big 12 basketball tournament. Oh, yeah. And it was right when the pandemic hit. So there was no games that was played. I checked in my hotel and literally checked out the next morning and got back on the plane and went back to Texas. I was so angry because I wanted to enjoy. I didn't even pick up my credential. I just got to town, checked in, and checked right out. That's when the pandemic hit. They called off the Big 12 tournament, and then everything went after that. So that was, I guess, 2019 or 20. I don't know when it was. No, it was early 2020.
It feels like 2019.
Yeah, so it was terrible. So yeah, man. Hey, if I come to Kansas City, I'm gonna check you guys out, and yeah, I want to get some grub for sure.
Just to make sure we're on the same page. You've never had Kansas City barbecue.
No, I've had Texas barbecue. I mean, I was in Texas for 10 years.
We got you.
Your name is literally in the name, barbecue. Come on, man. It's destiny.
It is. We'll make it happen, man. We'll make it happen.
That is our guy from LV Sports Network, RNR 920 AM, ESPN Las Vegas, Fox Sports Las Vegas, 12:30 The Game, and the host on Locked On Raiders at Locked On Bets podcast. Your boy Q. Follow him on Twitter at YourBoyQ254. He's awesome. We're going to definitely have him back on the show if he would have us. Q, Absolutely. Thank you so much for taking some time, man.
Hey, no problem. Thank you guys for making some time for me. I appreciate you, man. This is fun, and we'll have to catch up again. I appreciate it.
Sounds good, man. Sounds good. Thank you so much, brother.
Of course, bro.
All right, that was our guy Q. We really appreciate him. Your boy Q at 254 on Twitter. He's an awesome follow, guys. I've been reading some of his stuff, back studying. This dude knows what he's talking about. We really appreciate the knowledgeable back and forth conversation. That's actually the perfect way to end the show, man. So we really appreciate our guy Q for coming on. We will definitely have him back on as the season progresses and when the Raiders and Chiefs face off for the second time in Arrowhead. And I'm going to hold him to that, too, because if he says he picks the Raiders in that second game, I'm going to call him out on that and say, hey, man, hold on. You said home crowds matter. You said it. So we're going to definitely hook him up for some barbecue as well. Man, that was an absolute blast.
That was awesome.
Hell yeah, man. That was great. You guys have anything you wanted to say at the end, or are you guys good?
Nah, man.
I feel like we've had a long-ass show.
It's been a 3-hour show. So,
Formula weekend this weekend. So.
Hell yeah, man. So in that, for Trevor Twidwell, for Eddie Ortiz, for the great Clay Windler, for your boy Q254, I am Lance Twidwell. Episode 142 is finished. It's wrapped up. It's finito. And until episode 143 is here, we're potentially talking about a Chiefs victory on the road in Las Vegas.
Let's go.
We out of this bitch.